I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
Here we go.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Loftus Road and Gentry. Live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Fireball Hot Take Friday. It feels so good to be back. Oh, goodness gracious. And Adam Vingan's here today. Caroline's out. Adam Vingan in. I'll be honest with you, Adam, that I don't know why. You know, when we were talking about this week, Chase was like, I got Adam booked for that Friday. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to be there that Friday. So Adam's here. And then when all the Predators news was breaking over the week, I was glad that I'm going to get to commiserate for what I don't know, 4 hours. No, I cannot do 4 hours on this Fireball Hot Take Friday screaming and yelling about the Predators. But it is good to have you here. How are you, Adam?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Nick is in today for Ian. How are you, Nick?
Doing great, guys. Let's have a good show this afternoon.
Okay, let's get right to it. So, there's a couple things. First off, there is breaking news surrounding the Tennessee football program and the NCAA violations and everything else. And we will get to that. But two thoughts I have on that to start with this is, one, I sent out a tweet on Friday afternoon in which I thanked all of our listeners for being great listeners. And for some reason, people thought that that was like a resignation tweet or something. I don't know where they got that idea from. Did you see the tweet that I'm talking about?
I did, yes.
So I was thanking our listeners for being great listeners because we're so thankful to have these great listeners. And I don't know, maybe on Friday we got some really good information about our listeners, and that was why I was so thankful for our listeners at that point in time, especially all of our great listeners in the 4 o'clock hour. But one thing that I think I've taken away from the success of the radio show over the last handful of years is I truly believe that the Predators have passed the Vols in terms of popularity in Nashville. I think the Predators are more popular than Tennessee football. And people will say, well, you know, Tennessee football, so many people watch a Tennessee football game compared to a Predators game. Like, right. But a Tennessee-Georgia football game has more weight for the crux of that, you know, team than a Predators versus Ottawa Senators Tuesday night game. It's not an apples-to-apples comparison. I'm just telling you, based upon how much we talk about the Predators on this show compared to how much we talk about the Vols, and I feel like the reason we don't talk as much about the Vols is because they just don't matter as much anymore. And and I've said this time and time again, that they just don't move the needle in Nashville as much anymore. Every Vol fan who lives here, and there's a lot of them, but they get mad every time I say that. But that is something that I felt like I realized. So, again, big allegations coming from the NCAA, and we'll get to it. And also, I don't think anybody takes the NCAA seriously anymore. So, with that, the Predators have signed Nino Niederreiter, 2-year deal, 4 years AAV, or $4 million AAV. But the big fish that's out there, Matthew Kachuk, wants out of Calgary, probably because it's Calgary, and he wants into the Predators amongst other teams that the Predators are on the list. So let's start there, and I will just say it like this. People today are like, you're going to give David Poile credit? And let me start by answering that with no. But I see the team that they have right now, and I think the team they have right now is good enough to almost win. And Niederreiter's a big part of that. I like Niederreiter. Like, I think that was a good signing. I think that they waited him out. And when they got him to take a deal that nobody else would give him for whatever reason, which I don't necessarily like, but when they got him to take that deal, it worked. He's a legitimate top 6 forward. He's a guy I trust. He's a good two-way player. I like that. But again, I think they have a team that can almost win, Adam. I think they need to go get Matthew Kachuk, because then they can legitimately have a team that can win. Your thoughts on all that?
No, I would agree on the Niederreiter front. I like Nino Niederreiter as a player. I think he fits precisely what the Predators want to do on both ends of the ice. I think the deal is a steal. I had heard last week that when free agency opened, the Predators talked contract with Nino Niederreiter, but the two sides were unable to agree to terms, And my guess is that Niederreiter thought there would be a more robust market for his services. He waited a week, realized that that market was not materializing. Easy for me to say. That's a tongue twister of a word. And came back to the Predators, maybe made some concessions on the deal. But to sign the player like Niederreiter for only 2 years at a $4 million cap hit, which is a pay cut for him, I think he was making $5.25 million against the cap on his previous deal. I mean, I think that was a really smart signing by the Predators. But I would also agree with you about Matthew Kachuk, because Matthew Kachuk is the type of player that rarely comes available. And we're not talking about a 27, 28, 29-year-old player. We're talking about a 24-year-old player who had a 100-point season last season. Now, most likely, he's not going to have a 100-point season again, but you could probably pencil him in for at least 70 points. He is the type of player that makes a team, as you said, that looks like it can almost win into a team that could legitimately win. Of course, it depends on what goes the other way, but if you're not really touching your top six too much and you add Kachuk in with a team that has Niederreiter now, as well as Ryan McDonough on the back end, I like that team's chances. I think that is a team that could legitimately compete for a championship.
Okay, so like in basketball, you take your 5, and if you like the team that you have in basketball, the old saying is, I'll take my 5 and I'll go up against everybody else. Mm-hmm. I'll take my 5. I'll take them anywhere. I'll say this. Forsberg, Duchesne, Yossi, Ekholm, McDonough, Johansson, Soros, Niederreiter, and Kachuk, I'll take them. I will take that group and any group that they could play. Now, there may be teams that have better players than that, that when you really get down into it.
Right.
But if we're talking about the best 7 players, because those 7 players are really good, I think that can compete with anybody else's 7 players. But you take Kachuk out of that, and I still look at Colorado and say, okay, their 7 players are better. And I still look at St. Louis, and I probably think that their 7 players are better. And I still, the way I look at it is they told us that they were not going to rebuild. Well, if you're not going to rebuild, then you have to try to compete. This is the way to do it. This is the going for it moves they've made in the past that they made, and the fans just, they're going for it. Like the Ryan Hartman trade or the Kyle Turris trade, or to me, those are nickel and dime moves. Those are trying to, talk yourself into a third-line center as a second-line player when he's really not. This would cost more than Ryan Hartman, but you're getting a legitimate first-line player. This is not like anything that you want in life that is good, you have to pay for. Everybody would like a mansion in the middle of Belle Meade. Guess what? You have to pay for it. And that's how I feel about Matthew Kachuk, is all the time the Predators talk about being bold, or when they were good and they went for it, and this is a true right there in front of them. If you want to go for it, you have to go for it, and this is the move that I feel like they have to make, and I feel like there needs to be pressure. I feel like there needs to be pressure on the Predators from the fans who are tired of losing in the first round of the playoffs, that are tired of the almost winning. There needs to be pressure from the fans on the team of, you at least have to try to go get this guy. That's all I'm asking. And I say it because of this. I know in my heart they're not going to go after him. I already know. There's no inside sourcing on this. I already know in my heart that they're not going to go after Matthew Kachuk. And it's a shame, because you know the same thing. And I haven't even asked you if you know the same thing, but I know that you know the same thing. You know they're not going to make a competitive offer for Matthew Kachuk.
Well, it makes it more difficult now because they've added Nino Niederreiter, which takes away from their available cap space. So they were already going to have to move money out in order to accommodate Matthew Kachuk, and now they're going to have to move out more money. And they can talk themselves into saying that by having to move out that money, you're getting a player in Matthew Kachuk who's a great player, but you're creating other holes in your lineup that may make the team. It might be lateral moves in terms of adding Kachuk, and I don't know, let's just say Mikael Granlund, for example. You're taking out Mikael Granlund. Well, there goes one of your top 2 centers, for a first-line winger. Now, we can talk about how you would make all of that work. But I think that, if you want to talk yourself out of it, that's one way to do it. Just saying, are we going to hurt our roster more than help it by moving out the players to create the space to go get Matthew Kachuk?
I'm just telling you, they have to go do it. They have to. Will you join me in saying this? They have to go after Matthew Kachuk.
I think it would be a very smart thing to do, would be to go after Matthew Kachuk. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but they have to try.
Do you think they will try?
I'm undecided about that.
Oh, no. Oh, no. And then there's so many little elements of this that bother me. But I almost feel like, and I don't tell people what to do when it comes to buying tickets or not buying tickets or things like that. That's really not my job. That's your decision as a fan. But I thought the whole fan thing of, if they don't re-sign Philip Forsberg, then I am canceling my tickets. I never truly understood that because I never thought Forsberg was that important. I mean, I understand why fans would feel that way, but I just don't think Forsberg's the kind of player you do that for. Like, if I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan and they don't re-sign Joe Burrow, then I'm canceling my season tickets. I don't think Forsberg's that kind of player. But if you're one of these, like, season ticket people, I would say this, and I'm a season ticket holder. I want you to go after Matthew Kachuk. Like, I think that the fans should, I'm not going to say, like, storm the building and picket outside demanding that they go get Matthew Kachuk. But I do think the fans should push them to go get Matthew Kachuk because they keep telling us, we want to win. We want to compete. We think we can win. We think we can compete. And I got to tell you, after watching that Colorado series last year and watching that last month of the season against Tampa Bay and against Pittsburgh and against Minnesota and against St. Louis, they gave 7 goals in a period. After watching all of that, I am not convinced that this team is a Ryan McDonough and a Nino Niederreiter, both solid players, but I am not convinced that they are a Ryan McDonough and a Nino Niederreiter away from beating the Avalanche. But are they a Ryan McDonough, a Nino Niederreiter, and a Matthew Kachuk away from beating the Colorado Avalanche? I could see it. I could see it. Am I sold on it? No. But you're never going to be sold in hockey. Like, there's no, like, the Toronto Maple Leafs have a team that's good enough to beat all those teams, and they lost in the first round.
Again.
The Predators are not good enough to do that. I can tell you who's not good enough. Get Matthew Kachuk. I think you got a shot. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We're off and running today. I do not know how to access the text line. I'm sure at some point today I will figure this out, but I have absolutely no clue. So if you're texting the show, as of right now, there's no way I'm going to see it. But we'll take your phones. 615-737-1025 here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Adam is in today as we are off and rocking and rolling. Again, that phone number, 615-737-1025. So, Nino Niederreiter yesterday asked, he's been on a cup contender the last couple of years, asked how close they are, and about adding Matthew Kachuk. What he said, we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Adams in. It's 102.5 The Game.
Join 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and Newton Motor Group this summer to help kids in Middle Tennessee. We're teaming up with Souls for Souls to provide shoes to children experiencing homelessness in Nashville and the surrounding area for back to school. Our goal is to raise $20,000, which will provide 1,000 pairs of shoes for kids. To help, go to thegamenashville.com/shoes. Let's do some good this summer. Newton Motor Group is a proud sponsor of Souls for Music City. Newton Motor Group, the best car deals in Nashville. Start at Newton. Visit thegamenashville.com/shoes.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Hello, Nashville. Looking to save money on your wireless bill? You can when you choose Consumer Cellular. Sign up today and you'll get the exact same coverage as the leading carriers for half the cost. This gives you direct access to the widest, most established cellular networks available. Consumer Cellular offers flexible monthly plans with no contract and simple, affordable service that's perfect for your lifestyle and budget. Featuring a wide variety of top-of-the-line phones from Samsung, Motorola, and Apple, you'll find a phone that's perfect for you. Everything is backed by a 100% risk-free guarantee, plus 100% U.S.-based award-winning customer support. Switch your talk, text, and data plan before July 31st and get $100 on every new line of service. Right-size your plan and downsize your bill with Consumer Cellular. Visit consumercellular.com/Nashville100 and enter code Nashville100 to start saving today.
The Nashville Sheriff is hiring correctional officers. Earn $52,500 after paid training and probation. Positions are available immediately. You must be 21 and over with a high school diploma or GED. Come, join our family. That's $52,500 with great benefits. Apply now at sheriff.nashville.gov/apply or call 615-862-8170. Earn $52,500. Stop searching. Apply now. The Nashville Sheriff.
IndyCar is back in downtown Nashville. Single-day tickets for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, August 5th through the 7th, are on sale Wednesday, June 29th. Enjoy action-packed racing, huge concerts, cheering fans, and the biggest party of the year. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is a weekend full of entertainment you don't want to miss. Get tickets at musiccitygp.com.
Geico presents Daily Affirmations.
Repeat after me. Our thoughts are like the ocean.
Our thoughts are like the ocean.
Our thoughts create our reality.
Our thoughts create our reality.
We're thinking Geico offers claim service 24/7 with personalised attention from an assigned team.
Geico offers claim service? I wasn't thinking that.
We think it and it becomes our reality.
So, what about washboard abs?
Let's give it a go. Think really hard.
Okay, abs.
Yep, keep thinking.
To manifest more Geico in your life, go to geico.com.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
The last couple of years you've been on a team that has been competing for a cup. How close is this team, with your addition, to compete at that level?
I think very close. I mean, when we played against Nashville 2 years ago, and we had a really hard time beating them. I mean, they're such a competitive team. They skate really hard. They're very physical and hard to compete. And I think we had a really tough time. And I think this team is not very far from having such a great run.
And to that point, there were rumors yesterday that Matthew Kachuk is looking to move and that the Predators would be on his list. What do you think adding that caliber of player could do for this roster right now?
I mean, definitely a lot. I mean, he's a terrific player. I mean, he had a lot of points last year. And I mean, obviously players like that don't come around very often. And he would be definitely a great addition. But at the end of the day, it's not in my power to say it. But I mean, obviously he'd be great in the team.
There you go. That was Nino Niederreiter. He thinks the team is very close. And you notice that. I asked him, Adam Vinkin, who's in today on Fireball Hot Take Friday, I asked him, I said, how close, do you think the Predators, he thinks they're very close. And you know what very close means?
Almost.
Means not there yet. That's what it means. Nino Niederreiter, you signed on to the Preds. How close is this team to competing at the level of the teams that you had been on before that were competing? Very close. Does not mean right there. What do you think about Matthew Kachuk? Oh, I love Matthew Kachuk. No, it's not my job to sit there and get Matthew. I love Matthew Kachuk. That's what he said. And he's right. What'd you make of it?
Well, oftentimes, unless a player is signing with a team like Buffalo or Arizona or New Jersey, Chicago right now, they're not close to competing for a championship. So I certainly think that something like that is, often a generic / boilerplate response, if that's the right term. But as you said, in the time that Nino Niederreiter played for the Carolina Hurricanes, they were a team that had legitimate Stanley Cup hopes. So he knows what makes a great team. I mean, think about those teams in Carolina he's been playing with for the past couple of years. They've got Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov and Jacob Slavin and Brett Pesce. They've got really good players on both, at both positions up front. So he knows what the makeup of a championship team should look like. So if he thinks the Predators are quote unquote very close, that should mean something. I certainly do think that his addition, I'd say it moves the needle slightly.
Niederreiter's addition?
Yes. I agree with you that I do think that this team is better today than it was at the end of the season. How much better with no other moves is the question. And, I do think the Predators could be, right now I still think on paper they're still hovering around that third place in the Central Division kind of area. But, if they were to go out and get Matthew Kachuk and not decimate their current roster in order to do so, that would make me feel a whole lot better about their chances.
So I would say this. I think they're a better team.
Yes.
But I don't think they're that much of a better team. Just think about this. In both instances, McDonough and Niederreiter, those were guys that the team that guy played on didn't want them. I hate to be rude on the Niederreiter thing, and I like Niederreiter. I think Niederreiter is a solid player, and that's what I think they need, and I've been talking about this when I felt like they needed a top six forward, in addition to go with it. A guy that when he jumps over the boards and is going up against a good player that I trust. And Niederreiter is one of those guys that I trust. He's not a great player, but he's a solid player, and they need that. And so I like that. But I still think there's a huge gaping hole, and that is the need of a true star. What I've been saying for the last 3 years, which is a big boy forward.
Right.
And that you don't just get big boy forwards. Most of these guys do not get traded unless they absolutely hate their team. And lucky for you, this guy absolutely hates his team. And he wants out, and I am thankful he does. This is when you go all in. This is when you do it. And so, I like the Niederreiter move. I like the McDonough move. I don't think they're earth-shattering, and I don't think the Predators worked particularly hard to get those deals done. The McDonough one, David Poyle said, just fell in his lap, and he made that deal. The Niederreiter deal, my gut is the Predators gambled that Niederreiter couldn't find a better offer, and then he couldn't find a better offer. So that's a guy that most people didn't want, which, again, I like Niederreiter, but you need a guy that everybody wants. Everybody wants Matthew Kachuk. And the only saving grace, and I have not gotten into the St. Louis Blues cap situation because I'm not sure how much I care about that, is I saw the Blues have like $200,000 in cap space and the Predators have $4 million. And if they trade Granlund and a possible deal for Kachuk, or they trade, they have so much dead weight on this roster, by the way, in terms of the cap. It is sad. Between the $2 million for Turris and the $2 million to Lozon and the $2.4 million for Fabro and the $8 million for Johansson and the $5 million for Granlund, they just have so much useless money. But I do know how the Predators can finagle their way to getting a Matthew Kachuk. With $200,000 in cap space, I don't know how the Blues finagle their way to get Matthew Kachuk. And I think they're the biggest competitor for Kachuk, and the team that you would have to see Kachuk if they end up getting him the most would be the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, I think the Blues are going to have to get really creative. And I was looking at a lot of trade proposals involving the Blues. Jeremy Rutherford, who writes about the Blues for The Athletic, had a story today where he solicited trade proposals and had he and other people sort of analyze them. And one thing that seems to come up is that they would have to get a third team involved. For example, Vladimir Tarasenko, I believe, has 1 year left on his contract. He wants out still, I believe. He's got trade protection. So you might have to move him to another team to create that space and then bring in Kachuk. So whether it's a separate deal or a 3-team deal, which gets someone like Tarasenko off the roster, it is going to be complicated. But the Predators do have, do have a little bit of cap space left. They still have to re-sign Yakov Trenin, and I don't expect that to be too much.
Oh my God, I don't care.
I know, but that you have to take that into the calculus of the cap space.
Here's my problem with this cap talk when it comes to Kachuk. Is everything that happens there? I already know. I'll just put it to you like this. I haven't done a lot of talking with my people inside the organization about Kachuk, mainly because I absolutely positively did not want somebody to shoot it down, even though I felt like it absolutely would have gotten shot down if I did too much digging. But every time that I talk about going out and getting a Matthew Kachuk, there's all these other things of like, oh, no, oh, Jared, and this is probably more fans than it is anything else, but it's, oh, Jared, I mean, what about, but would you have to give up Askarov? I don't care. I don't care. This guy is better than every single player on the team except for Yossi. Literally every single player on the Predators, he is better than. So why do I care? If it's like, well, we can't get Matthew Kachuk because we've got to sign Yakov Trenin, and let's not forget about what? I don't care. I don't care about Trenin. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at everybody else.
I know, but I'm not saying that they couldn't re-sign Trenin and still go after. And re-signing Trenin would not prevent them from making a move for Matthew Kachuk. But the addition of Nino Niederreiter to a $4 million cap hit does make that more complicated because you were already, like I said, you were already going to have to move money out before they signed Niederreiter. Now you're going to have to move more money out because of Kachuk's. Because look, his qualifying offer was $9 million. Let's assume that's the starting point in negotiations is a $9 million cap hit. And if you want to allow for a couple $1 million of space so that you're not right up against the cap and someone gets hurt and you're screwed because you can't fit someone into the lineup and you're playing shorthanded if someone gets hurt. You're looking, I think you were going to have to eliminate at least $8 million off your cap in order to legitimately or realistically acquire someone like Matthew Kachuk and sign him to a deal that meets his value.
And if they didn't trade for Jeremy Lozon and sign that average to below average backup goalie from the Blackhawks, they'd be $3.5 million closer without even doing anything. Just think about that. By the way, I laughed out loud. I literally, they signed the goalie on Thursday. I lost my marbles. This crap goalie from Chicago who freaking sucks. Stop me if any of that was wrong.
He's not good.
Okay.
But he was also playing for a bad team.
And so this crap goalie who freaking sucks, they signed for $1.5 million. I lost my marbles about it on Thursday, went on vacation on Friday, and at 6 a.m. on Friday, when you were in with Robbie, I was like, I have to hear what Robbie and Adam say about this. And I loved it because Robbie set it up and then asked you what you thought, and you said, I think it's a complete waste of money. And I laughed out loud. There should be, I don't want, this is what I would say to everybody out there. And then I promise to your phones, because it is your day, Fireball Hot Take Friday. No excuses. There should be no excuses for why this team should not get Matthew Kachuk. Like, if he doesn't want to come here because the Blues make a better trade or put together a better trade package than you do, okay. Like, that I understand. But I don't want to hear anything about, they can't do that. I mean, they can't move Alexander Carrier in a deal that because Carrier's no, he's not. Whatever you would say, he's not. He is not anything important enough that keeps you from getting Matthew Kachuk. Eli Tolvanen, Philip Tomasino, that none of them are anything that equals 24 years old and a big boy forward. Right now, the forwards of the Predators, as far as being on the Predators, combined for all of them, one All-Star appearance as a member of the Predators, and it belongs to Forsberg 7 years ago.
And he was an injury replacement that year, too.
Thank you. 7 years ago as an injury replacement. This guy was an All-Star last year. There's nobody on your team who's as good as him, except for Yossi, and he's a defenseman. So when it comes to, if they don't go for him, and my gut is they will not go for him, which, rule of the show, nobody gets in trouble for doing something that they haven't done. So we can't get mad at them yet. But if they don't go for him, the excuse, the cap. Get rid of guys that are dead weight on the cap. Do it. Just trade picks with them in order. This guy is better. than any forward David Poile has ever drafted or developed in 50 years of hockey, correct?
I would have to go back through
to read up the Washington teams,
Capitals draft
from the
history.
80s.
Yes, but in Nashville, absolutely.
Okay, he's 24. It's not that complicated. 615-737-1025. Promise you phones next. 615-737-1025. And Jeremy Rutherford, who does work for The Athletic, covers the Blues, had an interesting take on Robbie and Rex wrote about Matthew Kachuk. We'll get to that coming up next. And I just want to say this. I'm not dropping this. Like the idea of, it came out that the Predators were on Kachuk's list, and then they signed Niederreiter, and there won't be any news for a couple days if the Predators don't do anything, and then it'll kind of die down. This is really the last day, in my opinion, that we're going to have a lot of hockey offseason talk because training camp starts tomorrow, and so it is what it is. But I'm not dropping this. Like, they need to go get Matthew Kachuk. 615-737-1025. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love those guys. They take great care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. Hiller is celebrating the home of the free all July long with special deals for customers. This month, only take advantage of free whole home surge protection and an interest-free financing for 12 months with the purchase of a new whole home generator, a free programmable thermostat, and an interest-free financing for up to 48 months on select new HVAC units, and a free water sensor leak detector and interest-free financing for 12 months when you buy a new tankless water heater. All these purchases come with a free Happy Hiller Club membership. Their work is backed by the Happy You'll Be or services free guarantee. That's right. And these deals are only happening in July, so customers should call as soon as possible. That's right. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They've been taking care of my home for years. They can do the exact same for you. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller! Call the Happy Face Truck today.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
they're still in good shape to make the playoffs,
and I-840,
players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture, eat strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with three-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
Ever tried to shop for a diamond online? They all look great on the computer screen, but the fact is, most reputable jewelers like Genesis Diamonds wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole.
These are the diamonds that nobody wants to buy. We call them the B-quality diamonds.
That's Genesis owner Boaz Ramon, who says that even diamonds with the same grade and specs on paper can be very different when you see them up close in person, especially the ones from online dealers.
Those diamonds gonna look always cloudy or dirty. It's like you're wearing your glasses and there is fingerprints all over the glass. You just don't understand, or nobody told you that the material that this diamond was cut from was not the best material.
Why risk it? At Genesis Diamonds, they screen thousands of diamonds and only choose the best of the best for maximum brilliance, sparkle, and luster. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
I'm Boaz Ramon, and my accent is always on value.
Hey, Willie Donick here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month, and inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it that you can access with Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto specializes in zero-cost cash-out home refis. You can get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. Pay off those 23% rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut $800 or more from their monthly budget. If your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto now and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. Do it now. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Sunday night.
Deep left field for Manny Machado. It's back, and man, oh man, oh Manny! It's out of here! Nick Plummer strikes again!
Sunday Night Baseball features a big National League matchup between the Padres and the Mets. Coverage begins at 5 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Gary Bettman. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Well, I think there's some teams out there, like, for example, the Blues, you mentioned them. You know, I think they have a player you guys are familiar with, Jordan Kyrou, who would entice Calgary. They've got some good prospects. You know, and I think Doug Armstrong would be willing to part with a first-round draft pick. I think there's other teams probably in a similar position that could do that. You know, some of the teams that we've mentioned that have been interesting to Matthew Kachuk, like a Dallas, like a Nashville, you know, like some of those other clubs. The interesting thing to me is you look at New Jersey, and New Jersey definitely has the cap room and definitely has the assets that if they wanted to acquire a Matthew Kachuk. I know they had some interest at the draft. They were willing to trade the number 2 draft pick to Calgary for Matthew Kachuk, and Calgary turned that down. So there are teams who are positioned to make this move, but are they places that Matthew Kachuk would be willing to go to and sign that sign and trade and sign, however you want to look at it, 8-year deal to go somewhere else? So, yeah, I do think this is more than 1 or 2 teams we're talking about, and I think teams that aren't on the list are probably, if they haven't already, expressed a lot of interest.
There you go. That was Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. Adam, I think you probably know him pretty well.
Yes.
And so it sounds like he knows what he's talking about when it comes to Matthew Kachuk. And I don't know, the second overall pick wasn't good enough for Matthew Kachuk, but I'm guessing he wasn't demanding a trade at that point. And Calgary thought they were going to keep Johnny Gaudreau at that point, and so maybe things change. But he did say that Nashville is interesting to Kachuk, which means he wants to come here, which means, in my opinion, they need to go get him. Do you have a thought, or do you want to go to the phones?
I do have one thought that I found to be a bit humorous.
Give it to
so
me.
When The Athletic first reported the potential destinations, there were 5, I think. St. Louis, Nashville, Vegas, Florida, and Dallas. St. Louis, his hometown. The other 4,
tax-free.
Tax-free.
Yep.
I did find that a bit humorous.
How did the Kraken not make the list?
I don't know, because they're not very good.
Did you know that the state of Washington is tax-free?
I did. I've learned that recently.
Which I learned recently as well. It's crazy to me because, you know, when you follow the political spectrum, Washington does not fit in with those other states that you just mentioned.
No.
But somehow, some way, where there's a will, there's a way. It's America. It's Fireball Hot Take Friday. Let's go to your phones as promised. Nate has been waiting patiently. He's going to kick us off today. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Nate.
My one concern is the Poyle should be going after Kachuk is that he truly doesn't have pressure because of this lifetime contract that the owners have given him. That's the only thing that concerns me.
So I would agree with you, and I appreciate your call, Nate. I would agree with you with the fact that it doesn't seem like David Poyle has any repercussions for bad decisions, which I would agree with. But this is a point I made on Twitter yesterday, and I stand by it. He's 72. They're not going to rebuild. They say they want to compete. The owner is out in 3 years. And the fans are tired of this. Hey, be happy we made the playoffs. The fans are over that. We can agree on all of that, right?
Yes.
That's when you go all in. When you're refusing to rebuild, when you're saying, no, we're not going to tear the team apart to be bad, to be good. We're not doing that, okay? That's not an option. And you look at your team and you say, we want to compete with Colorado. Well, you're really, really far away from Colorado in case you guys missed that series, which sometimes when I listen to them talk, I wonder if they did, in fact, watch the same series I watched. But we all know you're not close to Colorado. You added 2 solid players. That will help, but you're still not there with Colorado. This guy gets you there, maybe not right there with Colorado, but given your goaltender and given the question marks they have in goal, I think it could be a very interesting series if the Predators, with McDonough, with Niederreiter, with Kachuk, if they can all be on the same team and they could do it, that's when you go for it. And I will say this about the going for it, too. The going for it they've done in the past. And I didn't really care about hockey when I was in the 9th grade and they went for it with Peter Forsberg and Paul Correa. And, like, that was before my time. That was going for it, though. But everything else, all the other David go-for-its, to me, are not really big go-for-it moves. Franzen and Santorelli, that's not going for it. Those guys are average players. Ryan Hartman, that's an average move.
What about PK Subban?
That's good. That's a good question. I mean,
because Shea Weber was still a very good player at that time.
I felt like that was to get out of the future of Shea Weber's contract.
I mean, but it did help.
It definitely helped. I mean, that was a bold move.
Yeah.
Now, again, Montreal went to them. Wasn't the other way around. They didn't go to Montreal. Just like they didn't go to Ryan McDonough or they didn't go to Tampa, Ryan McDonough came to them. Now, Niederreiter, I don't know. They probably actually did go after Niederreiter.
Well, what's interesting actually was I had to roughly translate this using Google Translate because, I can't read German or whatever the language it was written in.
You'd be a better hockey beat writer if you could.
Yeah, that is true. I need that Rosetta Stone. But in a Swiss newspaper, they had an interview with Niederreiter where Roman Josi, of course, another Swiss player, went to Niederreiter and basically said, "Let me know, tell me what you're looking for, and I'll bring it to the powers that be." So it's almost like Roman Josi helped broker this deal between Niederreiter and the Predators.
I bet you have Roman Josi's phone number.
Do I?
Yes.
I might.
Tell him to get Matthew Kachuk on the Predators. Even if that means that he's going to have to give some money back, which I don't think you can do.
No, he
according
can't.
to the NHL collective
There's
bargaining
no
agreement.
restructuring in the NHL.
I don't think you can do that. But that's okay. Ship off Lozon. I actually have a trade we'll get to in a second. Weston is up next. Been waiting patiently. Thank you for calling on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's up, Weston?
Hey, yeah, so about Matthew Kachuk, I would be completely okay with us possibly giving up somebody like Ryan Johansson and keeping Askarov as a goaltender. Like, we don't want to give him up because that's our bread and butter, but I would be okay with freeing up Ryan Johansson and sending him to Calgary.
So here's the crazy thing about teams and players, and I appreciate your call, Weston. The players you don't want, the other teams don't want to. Like last year, the Seattle Kraken could have had Ryan Johansson. In fact, any team in the NHL could have called the Predators this time last year, offered future considerations for Ryan Johansson, which is nothing, and they would have been given Ryan Johansson's contract. Any team. And not one team wanted to do it. So now, this happens all the time whenever there's a player out there. Every time it's the same thing, the same discussions. Because if you trade for Kachuk, all the names, and you know how I feel about prospects.
Yes.
Do Preds prospects on your own time. But all the names, Zachary Leroux and Kimmel and Evangelista and Askarov and they're all in play. All of them. Well, but Jared, that's our goalie of the future, and we can't. Right. And so the guys that you want, other teams want. The guys you don't want. I can't tell you how many people were like, you know what, they should get rid of Turris. Nobody wants him, just like you don't want him. That's the problem. So when the caller calls in and says, I'd be fine with getting rid of Johansson. Thumbs up. Problem is, nobody wants him. And not only that, I'll say this. I believe that if you put Matthew Kachuk and Ryan Johansson on the same line, you would bring out the best in Ryan Johansson. And the one thing that I will give Johansson credit for, I thought he played okay last year. I didn't think Johansson played great, and I certainly didn't think that he played up to the billing. But they kind of put him in a bad spot.
He had a good season when you consider the fact that he was saddled by Ellie Tolvanen and Luke Cunningham.
Yeah, I mean, he played with some real crappers. So,
he did score 26 goals.
Playing with some real crappers.
So
I
give him credit for that.
So that's my point. You put Matthew Kachuk there, and now all of a sudden, I always have believed that great players make a guy like him better. That now because I don't think he's a great player, but I do think he's a really good talent. And then I think they need to give him the Rob Gronkowski treatment. And they need to play him 73 games out of the season. And they need to give him breaks. And I wish that Johansson could play a whole season and play effectively for a whole season, but I don't think he can physically anymore. And I think that's his fault, but we'll just leave it at that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Big news, by the way. I have figured out how to get into the text line. So if you have texted into the show, we'll get to your text on the other side. 615-737-1025. And here's the one thing that I do want Adam's opinion on. And it has to do with Matthew Kachuk and David Boyle, and we'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, Fireball Hot Take Friday. I love Fireball Sin Whiskey. Why? Because Fireball Whiskey goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. I was just on vacation. When you're on vacation, and I was on the beach, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, we need some Fireball. Why? Because I absolutely love Fireball Sin Whiskey. It goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. Summer's halfway over, which means you got another half a summer to get the Fireball going and to enjoy your off year until the kids have to go back to school or whatever it is. You got to go back to work. That's Fireball Cinema Whiskey. Night to night, please do responsibly. And be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinema Whiskey.
At some point, it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like.
Get the best analysis of the big stories in the sports world with ESPN's Jason Fitz.
If you reach for a quarterback in the draft because you need one, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years.
Join Fitzy every Wednesday at 4:30. Presented by Blood Assurance. Jason Fitz.
I am 5'9.5"
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Sunny and warm this afternoon. High temperature up to 99 degrees. Heat index up to 102 degrees.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey, it's Jared for TriStar Moving. If you're looking to move, you need to give my friends at TriStar Moving a call. At TriStar Moving, you'll get 5-star service throughout the entire process. Everything will be taken care of, from covering your floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, furniture, TVs, and more. They took great care of my move and made it as stress-free as possible. If you're looking to move, give TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them at nashvillemoving.org/radio and get 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Hey, it's Mark Howard here. You've heard me talk about my friends at Apple Collision Centers for a while now, and today I'm here with CEO Stan Harrison to tell you about how they can help ease your stress with your auto body repair.
That's right, Mark. We have 3 convenient locations, Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin, ready to serve you. Our people are homegrown right here in Middle Tennessee with over 75 years experience. We can help with all your auto body repair needs.
So stop by and see Stan and his team today and tell them Mark sent you, or visit them online at applecollisioncenters.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try Ziprecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Darren McFarland.
That's the most personality I think I've heard.
Willie Donick.
Give me credit. I said it.
Chase McCabe.
I still talk to people outside of this building.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Do you think that those core players are good enough in order to compete, to bridge the gap with the Colorado or other teams in the Western Conference?
I think they are, Jared, in the sense that, you have to, basically what happens is, I think when you look at the level that they played this year, like there was a transition, I think, when you look at, I think they've shown they have a lot of game left in the sense that, I think that they're all in great shape. I think that they're they're playing the game and driving at a high level. I felt like what can help, how can you support them? If you really look at the team this year, whether you put Johansson or Granlund with Duchesne and Forsberg, like that was a top line all year long. You know, the issue was if whichever one of those two centers wasn't with those two wingers, we didn't have enough punch in that quote unquote second line spot. So let's say Phil's back and you had Granlund, Forsberg, and Duchesne. How can we support? Can we do that internally, or do we have to do it externally to help a guy like Johansson or Granlund in that second line center spot that gives us more punch, but also brings some skill sets that helps those guys?
There you go. That was John Hines after the season. And I asked John Hines, you heard it right there, said, do you think that you can bridge the gap between you and Colorado? I do. You just got to add a couple pieces in, couple pieces out. I got a piece that would fit perfectly for all of that. Matthew Kachuk, Adam Vingan. That is the piece. With that, let's go to your phones. As promised, phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com on this Fireball Hot Take Friday. Be patient with me on the text line because I don't really know how to use it, but I do have access to it. Dave texts in and says, does Jared know the Avalanche lost 2 to 3 key players? Let me counter this with, no, they didn't. People have to understand the difference between a key player and a role player. If we were to use the Titans as an example, Daquan Jones was not a key player. He was a role player. Jeffrey Simmons is a key player, and there's a big difference between the two. So next year, Colorado will have Landeskog, Rantanen, McKinnon, Nichushkin, Cale Makar,
Josh Manson. They
who
re-signed.
was it that played with Makar last year?
Devon Taves.
Devon Taves. All those guys. The one guy they lost was the goalie, and even then they didn't even really like. Darcy Kemper is
fine.
He's like a, Teddy Bridgewater of goalies. Like he can start, he can back up. He's probably better than most guys who are backups, but he's not great.
Well, they lost Andre Burakovsky. He went to Seattle.
Key player?
At times, yeah. And they lost, presumably, Nazem Kadri, who's still out there. I don't know if he's going to circle back to Colorado, but we know he had a great year last year.
My theory on Kadri is no team thinks that he's as good as playing on Colorado made him look.
Well, a lot of players look good playing on Colorado.
Exactly.
Just like a lot of players look good next to Connor McDavid. I mean, Connor McDavid should get a commission from some of the wingers that he's played with. A guy like Zach Kassian, who was a bum for most of his career until he showed up in Edmonton and played with McDavid.
Texter says, into the text line, Jared, what is your offer for Matthew Kachuk? Which is a good question because I spent all day yesterday texting Adam Vingan about what my offer for Kachuk would be. So let me pull it up right here because Adam has already seen this sheet of paper.
Yes, I have.
As has Ryan Porth. And I try to think of who else I sent this to. Corey Curtis, who's going to join us next hour, saw this as well.
Robbie?
I don't think I sent this to Robbie. Here's my deal. Granlund, Sissons, Fabro, Tolvanen, Zachary Leroux, and the first-round pick. That would clear up $11.71 million in cap space. That would allow you to turn around and sign Kachuk to $9.5 million a year. You'd probably get another veteran guy that can play on your third or fourth line as a forward, and they'll still have enough money to sign Yakov Trenin and still have enough to pay that crummy goalie that they got from Chicago, all there in that cap space range. I don't think Calgary would take that deal, but that would be my first offer, would be Granlund, Sissons, Fabro, Tolvanen, Leroux, and a first-round pick. And if you want to take out Leroux and put in Evangelista, I don't care. Do the prospects on your own time. Because the Predators have had all these prospects over the year, and none of them have been any good. So I don't care about that anymore. I just feel like they've got to clear about $10 million in space in order to make a Kachuk trade work. So that's how you do it.
That to me sounds like, and I say this with all respect, that sounds to me like a Madden / NHL 23 trade where you just add players on your side, as many as you can think of, to make the money work, and then it works. Like, I see what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. You're clearing out the cap space. If I'm the Flames, I'm looking, the thing is that, Granlund is a useful player. You had Sissons in there, right?
Yep. Fabro,
Tolvanen. They are useful players, but none of them look, you're not going to get equal value back for Matthew Kachuk. You don't lose a player like Matthew Kachuk and get equal value in return. But there are other teams out there that have, and this is where the Predators, I feel like, are at a disadvantage. They do not have a young, established top 6 forward. We mentioned, Jeremy mentioned this in the clip you played, Jordan Kyrou. Jordan Kyrou, I think, is 24 years old. He had 75 points in 74 games last season. He has 122 points in 173 career games. That's Kyrou. Tolvanen has 47 career points in 122 games. Trennan has 41 career points in 146 games. Tanner Jeannot has 48 points in 96 career games. So I feel like those players are useful, sure. But a player like Kyrou, a young player who has been productive in the league, that can play on their top line.
You mean a good player?
A good young player who's proven in a top 6 role. Because I know that Calgary might seem like Siberia to those of us that live here in Middle Tennessee, but they have Wi-Fi, and they have access to game film, and they see what we see. That someone like Eeli Tolvanen has played in the top 6 and hasn't really worked out there. But a player like Jordan Kyrou for the Blues has. So that might be more appealing to them than spamming all of these younger players that might be okay versus a player that has a proven track record at a young age.
So I don't think the Blues will trade the young player for Kachuk because I don't think they can afford to do that. You know what I mean? Like when you look at their cap and you look at, what it would cost to sign Kachuk to a long-term deal, I don't know if the Blues can give up a legitimate young top 6 winger in order to take on a huge Kachuk contract.
Well, they're going to have to make more moves. So that would require
dumping Tarasenko,
and he has control over his situation. So you would have to find a team that he would like to go to and get rid of him. Or I've seen proposals where the Blues include someone like Torrey Krug, who has a pretty healthy cap hit to make the money work. But they would have to get creative.
Ryan Ellis Jr. Torrey Krug.
Well, you did.
Little guy,
you did know
one
him in Boston.
shot from the point. I would rather have Krug than Ellis, only because I like the guy Krug more than the guy Ellis. Everybody told me how great of a guy Ryan Ellis was. Never thought that. Not that I spent a ton of time around him or anything. I just kind of thought he was kind of stuck up.
He could be a bit salty at times.
I did not like the guy Ryan Ellis. I like the guy Torrey Krug, which doesn't really make much of a difference because I'm not sure how much I care about it when it comes to this.
Yeah.
But my point is, right now, Calgary has 8 forwards on their roster, so they have to add actual forwards. Like, they need to bring in more forwards.
Right.
And Granlund is a legitimate top 6 player in the NHL, and he can fit with some of their guys. Sissons is a legitimately useful NHL player. Tolvanen and Fabro still have some upside, albeit not great upside. They still have upside that Calgary can sell their fans of, hey, look at all these players we got. LaRue's a high-end prospect. And the first-round pick, is a first-round pick. But I'm with you. I don't think that's – they're going to want it. They're going to want a better deal than that. They're going to want a better deal.
Keep in mind, they are losing – well, they already have lost one, and they're probably about to lose the other. Their top 2 wingers who combined for more than 200 points last season. And it doesn't sound like the Flames are going to be rebuilding either, so they're going to want players that can help them in the future, but also help them now.
Texter says Columbus just signed Line A and are now $6.5 million over the cap. Do Columbus on your own time. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I'm just learning how to use the text line. Let's just go back into your phones on this. Again, I think the Predators probably want praise for signing Nino Niederreiter, and it was not a bad signing. But Kachuk's out there. And I think they need to go get him. Back to your phone. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
You love the game.
Duchesne scores! Titans touchdown!
We live the game.
They did not make the playoffs. Coaches are figuring out what his role is.
We are.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
Learn a new offense.
Awesome game set.
Checker flag in the air.
The Game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen. In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, the beach is just the beginning. Because here, there's so much more to explore. So let's paddle, and maybe even parasail. Let's hit the trails, the coffee shops, the quaint boutiques, and craft breweries. And then let's indulge in some fresh seafood with a sea view. From the Gulf Coast to the Bay, there's something for every taste and every interest. So let's make the most of every sun-drenched minute, and let's shine. Start planning your next escape at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
This September, the Chainsmokers hit Music City at the Blended Wine and Music Festival. 24 bands, 2 stages, 1 weekend, all under the Nashville skyline. Performances by the Chainsmokers, Loud Luxury, Sick Kick, Fetty Wap, Breland, and more. September 10th and 11th, the ultimate social experience drops in Music City. Enjoy a massive 100-foot wine tent, culinary village, and wellness lounge. Get tickets now at blendedfestival.com.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
At Mitchell's Mr. Transmission, we also offer free towing with any major repairs. If your vehicle has a breakdown and you should need any type towing, towing is available through Dad's Towing Service. Dad's is a professional towing company in Nashville that provides all types towing and recovery, 24 hours a day.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
Nashville's best deal of the week is Bavarian Beer House at Opry Mills. Bavarian Beer House, Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, is full of fun, food, music, and most importantly, beer. Enjoy traditional German bratwurst, schnitzel, giant pretzels, and more in an Oktoberfest-inspired space. Visit beerhousenashville.com for their live music schedule. Get a $50 gift card for half off right now at thegamenashville.com/deals while supplies last. 102.5 The Game is teaming up with Newton Motor Group and Souls for Souls to provide shoes for children experiencing homelessness in Nashville and the surrounding area. With school coming back, our goal is to raise $20,000, which will provide 1,000 pairs of shoes for kids. Please help however you can by going to thegamenashville.com/shoes. All donations go directly to Souls for Souls to give shoes to children in Middle Tennessee. thegamenashville.com/shoes. Nashville's Best Deals is a great place to save cash fast. Get up to half off or more on dining and entertainment at thegamenashville.com/deals. Check back often for new featured deals and save money now at thegamenashville.com/deals.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3. Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver
awesome
in Game 7.
Checkered flag in the air. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury. He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Here we go.
Stillman and Company. What was that?
I don't know.
Is that new?
It's your show.
I've never heard that before.
I think Chase edited some of these intros while you were gone.
Ah.
Okay. You were really caught off guard by that.
I was. I've never heard that before. Okay. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios, Fireball Hot Take Friday. Adam Vingan, if you didn't hear him, is in today. Caroline is out. So, again, the big news of kind of the week, to me, the Predators signed Nito Niederreiter, and it feels like they think they're done. They haven't said they're done, but it feels like they think they're done, that this is your team. Forsberg, Granlund, Duchesne, Tomasino, Johansson, Niederreiter in the top 6, Yossi, McDonough, Ekholm, Carrier, Fabro, Lozon on defense, Saros in goal, and then that guy from Chicago that they signed for $1.5 million that everybody who's apparently ever watched that guy play couldn't believe. So that is, I feel like they think they're done. They are not done because Matthew Kachuk this week asking for a trade out of Calgary. He's currently an RFA, right?
Yes.
currently an RFA.
So he needs a contract.
He is not going to sign an extension, a long-term extension in Calgary. He wants out, and Nashville's on the list. And he is a legitimate big boy forward. And to be honest with you, Adam, you've been here, 7 years now?
Yes, more than 7 years.
I think I've been here for 6 years, covering the team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've ever had as clear of a path to a big boy forward as they do with this. This is the closest I think they've been to getting a true big boy forward. Maybe the Johansson-Jones trade at the time, they thought that's what they were doing. That ultimately is not what ended up happening. Forsberg, as is well documented, is one step behind being a big boy forward. Duchesne's not a big boy forward. We know him. I believe that this is the closest the Predators have gotten to a big boy forward. And opportunities to acquire big boy forwards do not come around once every 6 months. This happens usually once every 5 years. So I think they should take their shot.
Yeah, I mean, think about some of those forwards who have moved in the past couple of years. The Vegas Golden Knights have acquired 2 of them. They acquired Mark Stone and Jack Eichel, though Jack Eichel was injured at the time. But they made those moves. I'm trying to think of other recent moves. I don't know if you consider, at least at the time, the texter mentioned Patrick Laine being signed today to a 4-year contract. The Blues and Jets swapped forwards, Patrick Laine for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, Patrick Laine early in his career would qualify.
He looked like a big boy forward.
I'm not sure
he fell off.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's there right now, but he was at one point, and Dubois is a good player too. So yeah, those forwards don't come available very often, especially at Kachuk's age. Now, sometimes those forwards become available when they're 26, 27, 28 years old, and they're entering free agency, like Johnny Gaudreau just now. But in terms of trades, younger players like Kachuk, they very rarely come available because teams are not willing to give them up. But when the player doesn't want to be where he is, the team doesn't have a choice. Now, I think one important thing to note is that Kachuk was actually taken to arbitration by the Flames, which is a rare step. And part of the reason why I think they did that was to avoid an offer sheet. But the dates for the arbitration hearings came out yesterday, and Kachuk's is scheduled for August 11th. So that's pretty much the deadline for this to get done. Otherwise, because if they have to go to arbitration, they're going to make it locked in.
It's a for sure 1 year deal?
Yes, because he's 1 year away from free agency, so the award would be a 1 year deal.
And then Calgary has almost no leverage.
Yeah. So basically they're going to want to trade him by August 11th. So that's what, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. So
well, we have 1 day because the Titans open up training camp for the rookies tomorrow. And what that means is that on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, we'll be talking about the Titans because training camp starts. So this is kind of the Preds off-season wrap-up for me. I don't like it. I just want, they've done an okay job so far. You get Kachuk, they would have done a great job. Let's go to your phones. As promised, phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. William has been waiting patiently. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, William.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. So, Chuck, this just makes too much sense for Nashville, an entertainment city, and this is one of the most entertaining guys. He's not Connor McDavid, but he's in the same ballpark. But what he has that Connor McDavid doesn't, he has a pulse. My one criticism of hockey players is a lot of them are stoic to a fault. They don't really they don't bring much other than their play on the ice. This is entertaining. This is an entertainment city. It makes too much sense. That's why I think it won't happen, because it makes too much sense.
Boy, William, I appreciate your call. I agree with you.
Remember that last game between the Flames and the Predators in Nashville, the game that UC Soros got injured? Kachuk basically, I think he got a stick up in Matt Duchene's face, and Duchene went nuts, which is not something you often see from Matt Duchene, and it started a full-on scrum. That's what I like about Matthew Kachuk. He's a pain in the ass, and and Niederreiter is too, but not to the same extent.
So
as
I think
Kachuk. He's a super pest.
I truly believe that Kachuk is the perfect player for John Hines.
Okay.
Because he's a really skilled forward. He's young. He physically can play John Hines hockey, and I think he kind of wants to play John Hines hockey.
Yeah.
I think he's, how do I say this? A good version of Luke Cunnin. Although Cunnin could play center, and I don't think Kachuk can. Cunnin picked up all those penalty minutes, Kachuk's good enough to stay out of the box while doing some of that stuff, and is actually good enough to put the puck in the net.
And he can draw opponents. Remember that I think that play with Duchesne, there was a scrum that happened. Although Kachuk was the instigator, I think Duchesne ended up with more penalty minutes than Kachuk. I think what's great about Matthew Kachuk is that he draws his opponents in and does a good job of, suckering them into taking a penalty or two. I don't know what his penalty differential is, but I don't think he puts his team at a disadvantage with the way he plays the game.
Well, Caleb texts into the text line and says, I would have to agree, Jared, if Poyle isn't going to go for it now, then he never will. I got to say this. He's 72. Like, he's not going to be the general manager of this team in 8 years. Herb Fritch is out in 3 years, and Bill Haslam's in. If you're going to go for it, this is the time, and this is the guy, right?
To me, yeah.
Like, when it comes to David Poyle, he swears up and down by this coach. The coach has never done anything, and yet he swears up and down by the coach. And then he bangs the table and is telling us, I have not done enough for this coach. Well, I hate to break it to you, but I don't think getting Ryan McDonough and Nino Niederreiter by itself is doing enough for the coach. You get Nino Niederreiter, Ryan McDonough, and Matthew Kachuk, and I think you're doing right by the coach. I agree with the texter sentiment. If they're afraid for whatever reason to pull off a Kachuk deal, whether it is the assets they would have to give up, whether it is the money that he would command, or whether it is how it would affect their lineup, if they're worried about any of those three things, then they're always going to be worried about those three things no matter what. And I don't think any of those three things should matter here. I don't think there's a single player on this team that I wouldn't trade straight up for Matthew Kachuk. And so, but I agree with both the previous caller of it makes too much sense, so they won't do it, and the texter who says if Poyle's not going to go all in, then he never will. I don't know if David wants to go all in.
Well, that's the question. And, you and I are in agreement on a lot of things when it comes to the direction of the team. And we both feel that, they're stuck in a rut, so to speak. And I do believe that the additions of McDonough and Niederreiter make things slightly more interesting. But this is the type of move. We talk about moves that put a team over the top, or moves that, I called at the end of the season, I called the gap between the Avalanche and the Predators chasmic, like Grand Canyon sized in terms of the talent level on those two teams. And I agree with you. I think you said this earlier, that if you add Kachuk to this mix, you're not closing that gap, but you're pretty darn close. And if the Predators are committed to continuing to make the playoffs and actually challenge for a Stanley Cup in the next couple of years, this is that move. Because the team otherwise, it's a fine team, but they're sort of in that same realm they've been in, which is, middle of the pack.
Fans aren't okay with that anymore.
I know, and we know that the worst place to be in sports is middle of the pack. You either want to be really good or really bad.
I think about it like this: an agreement between the fans and the team. The fans said, and it was in your poll,
yes,
which I don't know what I'm going to do next season when I don't have that poll. But in your poll, the fans basically said, we want to start over. Fair?
Yes.
So that we want to start over, and we want David out of here. Those were the two takeaways I got from your fan poll, which had, 1,200 people?
Yes.
Okay. 1,200 people who pay money to subscribe to The Athletic took Adam's poll, and that was what they said. The team basically said, we're not going to do that. The team basically was like, we have no interest in that, even though that's what the fans want us to do. We're going to do it another way. But we promise that we're going to compete. Well, now you have to meet the fans halfway here. That if you want the fans to care, and you want the fans in this, and you want if you're going to do that, then you have to go try to get this guy. Because the fans aren't interested in one and done this year. If they get into the playoffs this year, and they have a competitive 7-game series with St. Louis and they lose in the first round, fans are going to be okay with that. They get in the playoffs, they get knocked out in 5 games, and it's not that close, then I think we're going to start to see apathy. And if you don't think apathy matters around here, just call Vanderbilt. Because their coach got up at SEC Media Days and said they're going to have the best program in college football, and they named a starting quarterback, and I'm not sure anybody in this town cares.
Well, the one person that voted them to win the SEC.
How about that? How about that? Somebody voted for Vanderbilt to win the SEC. That's a hot take on Fireball Hot Take Friday. Corey Curtis, News 2, and then we're back to your phones on this. And Adam gets to be, later in the show, the Calgary Flames, and I am going to make offers to try to get Matthew Kachuk. So that's all coming up. But Corey Curtis, News 2, he says he's got a take on the Preds, so we will get right to that coming up next here on the program on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Hey, we are your racing station. That's right, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Nashville's home for NASCAR. Tune in this Sunday at 1 o'clock for the Pocono 400. And also join Chase McCabe every Sunday morning at 8 for Chasing Checkers as he talks to the drivers and gets you set for the race weekend. NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game is presented by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. So get excited about that. Stillman & Company, it's 102.5 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
and I-840,
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
there's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams. This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
Whether it's the news, the traffic, the weather, or your COVID-19 vaccinations, it's important to stay up to date. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
Start the second half of the baseball season the right way and turn Ks into cash, big hits into big wins with FanDuel Sportsbook. Joe Rexford here to let you know that new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. You sign up using promo code Joe102, place your first bet, and FanDuel will give you up to $1,000 back in free bets if you don't win. Why is FanDuel so great? Because you get paid fast, because it's safe and secure, because you have great promotions every day, and a big thing for me, it's easy to use. There's no better place to bet America's pastime than on America's #1 sportsbook. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Again, sign up using promo code Joe102 and get started with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. And if you have a gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
This is your Racing Report with Chase McCabe.
This report is presented by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. For more information, visit NashvilleFairgroundsSpeedway.racing for tickets. Coming up this weekend, the NASCAR Cup Series heads to the Tricky Triangle at Pocono. And with 14 winners already on the season, could another one break through and punch their ticket into the playoffs? Right now, Chase Elliott leads the standings with 3 wins, but drivers like Martin Truex Jr., who finds himself 6th in points, does not have a win and is actually on the bubble. Ryan Blaney is facing the same thing, looking for his first win of the season. Drivers under the cut line include Kevin Harvick and Eric Almirola, with Harvick in 9th and Almirola in 12th, respectively. Coverage from Pocono begins at 1 o'clock on Sunday on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. I'm Chase McCabe.
For more, catch Chasing Checkers Sunday mornings at 8
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Jump into the thrill at Bally's Evansville Casino. Play to win with lots of slots and live and electronic cable games. Visit the High Limit Room for an elevated experience. Take a break with a cold tap house brew or a snack at the deli. For more elegant dining, check out the flavors, river views, and music at Kavanaugh's. Enjoy a relaxing stay at the Bally's Hotel or the luxurious Legends Tower. Plan your casino getaway at Bally'sEvansville.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Never miss a moment of the show.
What is this? Check it out.
Subscribe to the Stillman & Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman & Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Yeah, I think he is a difference maker. I mean, anybody puts up 100-plus points. But the thing about Matthew Kachuk that I know Predators fans are familiar with is just he does a little bit of everything. Like there aren't many players in the league who have the skill set, a little bit of toughness. He's a pest. I think teammates get behind him. He kind of takes charge. So there's so much to his game that I think he would be a difference maker. But you nailed it as, what do you have to give up? I mean, if you're giving up, let's just say you got to move a player that put up 70-plus points for you. How do you replace that? If you have to move a couple players, you move a defenseman. I just think that you're going to have to create some sort of hole by bringing in Matthew Kachuk, and certainly he's going to fill up a lot of it. But does he fill up everything if you're giving up a number of players to make this thing work? So that's the biggest thing. But certainly any team, the three teams you mentioned, Nashville, Dallas, St. Louis, any team he comes in, he's definitely going to make an impact.
I feel bad for the Predators from this angle, Adam Vingan, which is if Matthew Kachuk wasn't demanding a trade, and if the Predators weren't on his list, I think we'd be talking about the Niederreiter deal and saying, okay, that's their team. We don't think that they're going to compete with the Avalanche, but let's see. But now the Kachuk's out there. It's good. You signed Niederreiter. Good. All right. Now, what about Kachuk? Corey Curtis joins us on the program, as he always does, presented by Smokeville Smoke Shop, News 2, here on the program. So, Corey, what do you think? Both Adam and I think that the Predators should go for Matthew Kachuk. We both think that they will not. Is that fair to say? To say that for you, that they will not go after Matthew Kachuk?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you're talking to me or Corey.
Yeah. We both think that they will not go after Matthew Kachuk. Your thoughts?
It's really boring radio for everyone to agree. But I agree with you. I agree with what you said. If you just said Ryan McDonough and Nino Niederreiter, were the additions this offseason, you would look at that, to me, pretty successfully and say you got better at both spots, right? You got better on your top six, and you got better, on your blue line with the addition of those two guys. I like those two moves. I like them both a lot. And so I commend the Predators. But I agree with you. I still, unless they've got another youngster who's going to emerge as a big-time player, I still don't think they have enough to go up against the elites of the league. And I do think they should definitely go after him because great players don't grow on trees. They just don't. How long did it take for this team to find centers? I mean, It took forever. How long did it take for this team to find more than one scorer on the team? Forever. I mean, it's never been easy. And there's one who's out there and he's interested in you, and he's 24 years old, and he totally fits what you like to do. I think it makes too much sense. Listen, do I know if David Poile's going to go after him or not? I don't know. I'm not going to say no, though. I mean, David Poile is reaching the end of the line. He's never hoisted the cup, and I know he's never going to put himself in front of the franchise or in front of the city. But sometimes the dare to be great moment stands in front of you. I mean, they kind of had that moment when they traded Shea Weber for PK Subban. I mean, Shea was everything for this team. And I still remember sitting in the movie theater, about to see Finding Dory with my daughter when I got the text message. And I was like, holy cow, that was a stunner. And, and you don't make moves for fans. I totally understand that, and I'm totally with that. But you want to pump voltage into this town, into this team, you make that move, and everybody goes into this season thinking you can hoist the cup at the end of the year. You have a chance. So if you can give yourself that kind of chance, why not do it? I have to imagine they're kicking on what kind of deal can get this done. The question is, can they get a package together that Calgary could want and still keep their team strong enough to compete?
Here's my theory, too, on the future assets, Corey. I don't care about the prospects or picks. If you're going to go for it, you got to go for it.
Well, except for Askarov.
This is going
I would not want to give up Askarov. And I look at the herd line, I would struggle to give up Trennan or Jeannot. But you know what? At the end of the day, if it was the difference in the deal, I probably would do it.
Oh, I'd give up any player off the roster except for Yossi and Forsberg, who I can't trade. I would give up any player off the roster in order to get Matthew Kachuk. That's the struggle. The thing I don't get with this, too, is if you're the team and you make this move and you're giving Kachuk $8.5 million a year, which is that's not for $9 million.
Is that what they're saying?
Well, what do you think Kachuk would be, Adam?
Well, his qualifying offer is $9 million.
So it'd probably be 9.5, 10.
Yeah,
it's at least 9.
Yeah.
But you're getting him entering the prime of his career.
I think you have to do it. Don't you think that you make the playoffs and actually win games, which this team could not do last year? Don't you make that money up?
Oh, absolutely. You make $1 million a home playoff game.
It's hard to get $9 million home playoff games, but they'd also be trading away money that they were going to pay. But yes,
I mean they've been up against the cap and not winning playoff games. Suddenly you host 6 playoff games and you're putting $5-10 more million in your pocket, and you're selling a heck of a lot of Matthew Kachuk jerseys out there.
Why, in your opinion, would David be hesitant to make this move if he is hesitant?
Well, I think the 2 reasons would be the long-term cap ramifications of it, and how the team is built. But, sometimes you just got to go. But, he may not because I know, with Niederreiter, one of the things they like is, or Niederreiter is that it's a short deal because they didn't want to get into another long-term deal. But, they've shown they can trade guys to clear up cap space. You may not get a ton in return, but you can do it. And then, the other aspect of it is, he may view it as giving up too much of his current roster that one guy can't make up for, what you lose from the 3-4 or whatever you give up. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to be. I just know this. You can replace guys. You can't replace stars, right? I mean, you look at the Titans. You lose Nick Westbrook-Akine, you can replace him. You lose A.J. Brown, you don't know. You don't know. Hopefully Traylon Burks can replace him, but you don't know. I mean, the chance to get, like I said, you can draft and you can sign in free agency good guys and role guys. The chance to get stars isn't always there, especially stars that match you. And that's why I just think that you kind of got to throw all this stuff aside, because we've seen who are the teams that win the Cup. Are they a bunch of role guys?
Big boy forwards.
They've got stars. They've got great goalies. They've got big-time guys who can score and big-time guys who can skate. And, you can try to match them with gritty guys who are, having career years, or you can try to match them with other guys who were the 6th pick of the draft and can score 42 goals.
Corey Curtis, News 2 is with us, presented by Smokeville Smoke Shop. How good do you think the Predators are if they don't get Kachuk? So if it's just McDonough and Niederreiter, how good are they in your opinion?
Well, I think they're a good team. I mean, look, I think, could they still be 8th? Possibly, but I think they're a lot stronger 8th than they would be. But I think they can definitely move up in that Western Conference standings because, like I said, I like both of those guys for this team a lot. I think what they bring, not just on the ice, but to the room, is really, really good. And, because McDonough's just a winner. I mean, all that guy does is win hockey games. And, he is a pro's pro. And so I really like, what they've brought to this team. And I think, he also brings an edge to their blue line that maybe it didn't have. And so I really like their team as being better. But, if you're asking me, do I think it's enough to get over the hump? I think they might be able to pull off an upset in the playoffs, but I don't think they could pull off 2. All right? You get Matthew Kachuk, and you let's see what you can line up against. I think it's real interesting, man.
Corey, how crazy is it to you that on the week of SEC Media Days, the biggest stories surround the Predators?
Nobody's talking about Vanderbilt getting a vote for first place?
No.
I want to meet that guy.
I mean, it's crazy to me. Like, it's crazy to me that, and I brought this up earlier today, I think that there are more Predators fans in Nashville than there are Tennessee Volunteer fans.
Wow.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the last – what's that?
That's going to be fighting words for some people.
Well, I said during the Music City Bowl that the Vols just don't really move the needle in Nashville, and boy, that got a lot of people worked up.
Oh yeah,
but
I can think of a few people on Twitter. You know,
I just think it's a different era of Nashville sports. Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's your hot take this week?
You know, it's just because a guy's a starting quarterback in the NFL doesn't mean he should be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Look, I commend Kyler Murray for getting $46.1 million per year. Good for him. But what are the Arizona Cardinals thinking? I mean, yes, he's a good player. What has he done? How many playoff victories does Kyler Murray have under his size 28 belt in 7 shoes? None. Okay? Is he a good player? Yes. What has he accomplished? Not a whole heck of a lot. And teams get held hostage by these guys because it's such a difficult position to replace. But what's wrong with telling a guy you're not going to be the highest paid player in the league at that position because you're not the best player in that league in that position? You haven't proved it yet. Prove it to us, and we'll be happy to give it to you. Now, you know what? You may say, Corey, that's stupid because that guy's just going to leave then. Well, and you know what? We'll leave, and we'll find somebody who truly is worth it and does win a playoff game. But to mortgage your future, 25% of your cap to a guy who hasn't even won a playoff game. In fact, the one playoff game he played in, he stunk. To me, is ridiculous. And we see this kind of stuff over and over again. We saw another team get $46 million a year guaranteed to a guy they didn't even know was going to be able to play this year and still may not. I mean, I know we're desperate for quarterback play in the league, but let's at least invest it in somebody who's won some games.
But you're all fired up about that. By the way, I heard Colin Cowherd yesterday when the news was announced that Kyler had signed that big contract, and he was like, the game's changed. I'm like, I'm not sure the game's changed from that you need a quarterback. I think that's kind of always been the way the game's been played.
Need one. But I mean, you look at
I'm not a Kyler guy.
No, neither am I. I mean, like I said, I respect that he's a good young player, but he hasn't done anything.
He's not Josh Allen.
Gets a gajillion dollars. Deshaun Watson, don't know if he's going to play again, but let's give him $240 million. And it's just like, guys, what are you doing? There's a reason you guys haven't hoisted the trophy. You're not smart, all right? You're not smart. You know, whatever we want to say about Ryan Tannehill and whatever we want to say about him in the playoffs, at least he's been on the field for 2 victories. I mean, come on.
Ryan Tannehill, I will say this, great guy. We'll see how he does this season. Corey Curtis, News 2, as always, presented by Smokeville Smoke Shop here on the program. Thank you, Corey.
All right, thank you, Jared. Adam, it's great to hear from you back there.
Thanks, Corey.
There you go, Corey Curtis, News 2, joining us on the program. You know, the Kyler Murray thing, to me, whatever. That's a whatever team, a whatever franchise, a whatever city, although I do kind of like Phoenix, but it's a whatever city, and he's a whatever player. Fine with it, but I don't care.
I think Lamar Jackson is licking his chops right now because if Kyler Murray's getting that much money, what does that mean for Lamar Jackson?
Okay, so I have a trade package for Adam that I want his opinion on this Matthew Kachuk stuff. We'll get to that coming up next. Adam Vingan is here today on what is a Fireball Hot Take Friday and your phone, Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
Hey, Preds fans.
Running across to make the save is Sarah.
You can now hear Nashville's best sports talk.
The backhander, he scores!
And every Predators game on 106.3 FM.
Oh, that was a thing of beauty.
From downtown Nashville to Rutherford and Williamson counties.
Duchesne with the overtime winner.
Catch all the action on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Third Eye Blind, live in concert. Summer Gods Tour 2022 with Taking Back Sunday and special guest Hockey Dad this Wednesday at First Bank Amphitheatre. 3 bands, 1 incredible night. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Part of the Farm Bureau Insurance Concert Series. In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, every day is a beach day. And with 35 miles of pristine, sugary white sand, it's easy to see why. So let's grab the beach bag, the beach ball, and the boogie board. Let's pack the suits, the sunscreen, and the sunglasses. Take a dip in the emerald green waters of the Gulf. And then take in a breathtaking sunset at the end of the day. So let's make a beeline to the beach. And let's shine. Plan your next getaway at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
Have you seen the selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches they now have at Genesis Diamonds? If not, prepare to be amazed.
If people really know the watch world, they come in and they're in shock. They're like, I cannot believe you have this selection here. They're able to see them, touch them, feel them.
Meet Genesis watch expert Charlie Rivers, who says over the past few years, Genesis buyers have scoured the world to build a collection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, including all the hard-to-find models.
Daytonas, Pandas, Sky Dwellers, a huge selection of Submariners, Hulks, Kermits, anything that you could ever possibly want. We have every luxury pre-owned Rolex that we have here. We ensure that it's in pristine condition.
So come in today and find the timepiece of your dreams at Genesis. Or if you already own a Rolex and are looking to trade for a different model or even sell it, Genesis can help you get top dollar.
If you have a Rolex, definitely bring it in. I would love to see it and do a complimentary evaluation on it and see what we can do for you.
Genesis Diamonds, now with one of the largest selections of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in America. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hey, Willie Donick here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month, and inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home's value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it, and you can access it with Loan Pronto. They specialize in zero-cost cash-out home refis. Get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. And yes, VA loans are eligible. With a VA loan, you can access up to 100% of your home's value. So pay off high-rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut about $800 or more from their monthly budget. So if your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Your home for Hit City is 94.9 The Fan.
Your Nashville Sounds return from the All-Star break tonight at Louisville. Swing and a miss, strike three. Sounds win. Pre-game at 5:50.
On your home for Sounds baseball, 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey, this is Jordan Rogers, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You know, the last couple of years, you've been on a team that has been competing for a cup. How close is this team with your addition to compete at that level?
I think very close. I mean, when we played against Nashville 2 years ago, and we had a really hard time beating them. I mean, they're such a competitive team. They skate really hard. They're very physical and hard to compete. And I think we had a really tough time. And I think this team is not very far from having such a great run.
And to that point, there were rumors yesterday that Matthew Kachuk is looking to move and that the Predators would be on his list. What do you think adding that caliber of player could do for this roster right now?
I mean, definitely a lot. I mean, he's a terrific player. I mean, he had a lot of points last year. And, I mean, obviously players like that don't come around very often. And he would be definitely a great addition. But at the end of the day, it's not in my power to say it. But, I mean, obviously he'd be great.
I mean, he'd be great, but, it's not my job.
I mean, he had been a member of the team for like 3 hours at that point.
You mad at me for that question?
No, I'm just saying that it's not his place to say.
I saw some local boboery yesterday, was not happy about that question.
I'm not dogging the question. I'm just saying it's not his place. It's never a player's place. Well, I mean, hey, Roman Josi apparently helped facilitate this, so it might be Roman Josi's place to say.
I mean, this is why I looked at it. If Niederreiter was going to be the only person from the organization who talked yesterday, then Niederreiter was getting asked about it. Because
fair enough.
Somebody has to come back from break with a clip. So Laviolette, I think Laviolette and I used to kind of, like, we never actually talked about this, but I think we used to chuckle, like, internally amongst each other about the fact that during the playoffs, Laviolette would talk after a game.
Yes.
Then at practice the next day.
Yes.
Then he would talk before the game. Well, Laviolette wasn't much for talking, and since he'd already talked the day before, there wasn't really anything new to ask him this day, and since he never answers questions anyways, on a game day about who's in, who's out, anything like that, there's really no point in talking to him. So he'd come in for these, like, post-morning skate availabilities, and I would ask, like, 6 questions. And everybody would be sitting there, and I could tell, I was the kid who would be raising my hand when the teacher's like, does anybody have any questions about the homework?
Yes.
Nope. All right. Enjoy the rest of the day. And I'd be like, teacher. And so I remember one time, everybody looked at me like, why are you asking all these questions? And I'm like, because I am in radio. And so when we come back from break, we need a clip of Laviolette talking. And on top of it, I can't do it with all the pucks in the background at the practice. Boom, boom, boom. Every time he's trying to talk, whatever. So I used to always laugh that people get mad at those questions. Apparently people got mad at the question I asked yesterday. Niederreiter is for Kachuk. All right. You're the Calgary Flames.
Okay.
You're the general manager. I pick up the phone. I'm the Predators. What do you want from me?
Well, what do I want from you? Well, there's going to have to be at least, I would say at least 2 players that can help my team today. And I know some of that is probably, it may not be, one of those players might not be an exciting player. For example, Colton Sissons, perfectly useful player. Makes about $3 million per season. Would be a perfect third-line center for a team that has Elias Lindholm and Michael Backlund 1-2. So I would take Colton Sissons off your hands. And you think he's got 4 years left on his deal, so you don't have to worry about him bolting anytime soon. This is where things get interesting. So if St. Louis is calling me, and Jordan Kyrou is a part of the deal, and New Jersey is calling me, and Jesper Bratt is part of the deal. And Jesper Bratt, I have
no idea who the hell
he's 23 years old. He's a forward. He had 73 points in 76 games last season. And he has 203 career points in 307 games. So very solid young player. So if those teams are offering me those players, the Predators are unable to offer me a player of a similar mold because the Predators don't have young, established top 6 caliber players the way that those teams do. So if I'm Calgary, I'm either asking for an extra NHL-ready player or
Fabro,
they do need. I think they do have a hole on defense now that Eric Goodbranson signed a 4-year contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, I don't. Left shot, right shot. Does Daryl Sutter care about that? Apparently,
well, Goodbranson, I believe, is a right-handed shot, and so is Dante Fabro.
All right, there you go. Okay.
So there you go. So I would either need a second young NHL player under team control, or I would need the quality of the prospects to be increased. So I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at Colton Sissons. I'm looking at Philip Tomasino because he's the youngest player. He's just scratching the surface. He was a first-round pick not too long ago. Dante Fabro. So that's what I'm starting with. Colton Sissons, Philip Tomasino, and Dante Fabro. Then I would want one of the top 5 prospects on the team. So that could be LaRue. That could be Evangelista. It could be Fedor Svechkov, who was their number 1 pick in 2021.
Kimmel.
It could be Kemmel. It could be one of those players. And
Askarov.
Well, if I'm Calgary,
they've got Markstrom for 4 more years with a full no move.
Yeah, if I'm Calgary, and then I believe they also have a young hotshot goaltender in their system. Dustin Wolf, I believe, is his name. So, but that Askarov is arguably the top goalie prospect, but that might not be what I need. And either a first or second round pick, depending on the quality of the prospect. If the quality of the prospect is higher, maybe I accept a second round pick. If it's the 5th best prospect, I'm taking a first round pick. So I'm looking at Colton Sissons, Philip Tomasino, Dante Fabro, one of the top prospects, insert here, and either a first or second round pick. That's my package if I'm Calgary.
Is Tomasino going to be good?
I think he has the potential to be better than Tolvanen, Jeannot, and Trennan.
Does he have the potential to be better than Kachuk?
I mean, probably not. They're different players, but there aren't a lot of Matthew Kachucks walking around, so the odds are unlikely that Philip Tomasino is better ultimately than Matthew.
So I feel like I have to make another deal, and I haven't looked at the money from that.
Yeah. So Sissons is around 3, right?
Yep.
And
5,
so,
pretty much for
so
Fabro.
it's like 5.5. It'd be like, and Tomasino's still in his entry level.
Yeah.
So it'd be like between 5.5 and 6 of money coming. I think money that you're taking out. So you would have to either add another player to make the money work, or make another trade to clear out more space.
I would make it. I would take Adams trade. Tomasino, Fabro, Sissons,
One of the top prospects.
LaRue, Evangelista, Jared Stillman.
Not both of them. At least just one.
No. One of the one of them. And a first-round pick.
And a first-round pick.
Done. I don't think they'll do it. I have my reasons for that. We'll go right to your phones next. 615-737-1025. But that's what Adam is looking for if he's Calgary. Fabro, Sissons, Tomasino, prospect, first-round pick. How do you feel about that? We're to your phone, Stillman & Company, right here on 1025 The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
It's brought to you by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info, answer some questions, then get an obligation offer to sell or trade it. For all of the hits, kbb.com it.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red Weather Alert.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Sunny and warm this afternoon. High temperature up to 99 degrees. Heat index up to 102 degrees.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
If you suffer from joint pain, from arthritis, or an injury, you know the traditional treatments, pain meds, steroids, and then surgery, right? Willie Donick here with great news. Now there's a better way, and it's here now from the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. This is an advanced, exciting, and natural alternative that can give you lasting relief using your body's own healing power. Listen, steroid shots are toxic to your joints. Pain meds can be addictive, and nobody wants to go under the knife. It's 2022, and those old ways are out. The new way is in. Regenerative medicine, restoring and repairing damaged joint tissue using natural biologics. No drugs, no downtime, no surgery. QC Kinetics and their protocols can address any pain in any joint and give you the quality of life you deserve. So call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics now. 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics.
Hey, Mike, what are you doing way up on that ladder? You're going to hurt yourself.
Oh, I'm trying to unclog these gutters.
That's smart. I had water damage from my gutters last year. It cost me $10,000.
Wait, $10,000?
Yeah, and from over here, it looks like water's been pouring over your clogged gutters, and it's probably doing real damage to your foundation. You need to do what I did. Get off the ladder and call Leaf Filter.
Yeah, but I need to get these gutters flowing now.
That's why you need to call Leaf Filter. They'll clean and realign your gutters and install their exclusive micro mesh screen system so nothing gets in your gutters except water.
So Leaf Filter protects my house from damage and means no more gutter cleaning for me?
Bingo! Plus, Leaf Filter has an industry-leading lifetime warranty, so your gutters are covered for life.
Thanks, Frank. I'm calling Leaf Filter today.
Don't go another day with your home unprotected. Call 1-844-300-LEAF or go to tryleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection. Call 1-844-300-LEAF or go to tryleaffilter.com right now for an extra 15% savings. Call 1-844-300-LEAF or go to tryleaffilter.com. That's 1-844-300-LEAF.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexrode.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman & Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
on ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Well, I think there's some teams out there, like, for example, the Blues, you mentioned them. You know, I think they have a player, you guys are familiar with, Jordan Kyrou, who would entice Calgary. They've got some good prospects. You know, and I think Doug Armstrong would be willing to part with a first-round draft pick. I think there's other teams probably in a similar position that could do that. You know, some of the teams that we've mentioned that have been interesting to Matthew Kachuk, like a Dallas, like a Nashville, you know, like some of those other clubs. The interesting thing to me is you look at a New Jersey, and New Jersey definitely has the cap room and definitely has the assets that if they wanted to acquire a Matthew Kachuk. I know they had some interest at the draft. They were willing to trade the number 2 draft pick to Calgary for Matthew Kachuk, and Calgary turned that down. So there are teams who are positioned to make this move, but are they places that Matthew Kachuk would be willing to go to and sign that sign and trade and sign, however you want to look at it, 8-year deal to go somewhere else? So, yeah, I do think this is more than one or two teams we're talking about, and I think teams that aren't on the list are probably, if they haven't already, expressed a lot of interest.
There you go, Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic saying, yeah, I think Nashville could be in play on Matthew Kachuk. Adam Vinkin, who's with us today, says Colton Sissons, Dante Fabro, Philip Tomasino, one of the top prospects, and a first-round pick, and that you would accept that trade if you were Calgary.
Yes.
I think they have to do that. That is too easy. That is too easy. Unless they think Tomasino's going to be great, and I have no feel for that. I mean, I liked what I saw out of Tomasino. I also saw the coach bench him in the playoffs. So I have no feel for that.
Here's my thought on that. Historically, as we know, the Predators haven't had the greatest track record of developing forwards into high-end players.
Correct.
So if you're looking at history, could Philip Tomasino be a serviceable player for your organization for 10 years? Sure. But is he ever going to reach the heights that Matthew Kachuk has already reached?
So
history says maybe not.
I would agree with that assessment, except for the fact that I would say, the Cincinnati Bengals have had, they've tried first-round quarterbacks for forever, and they always stunk, and then they got Joe Burrow.
Right.
So that one guy could be the difference. But I also know what you mean, and I agree. And again, I mean, Tomasino, to put him in the top 6 right now, which they're going to do, even that's kind of a stretch. Like, that's kind of risky. Like, he's probably not ready for it. They're probably doing to him what they did to Fabro a couple years ago when they were like, we think he's ready for a top 4 role. And he absolutely was not and should have been in Milwaukee. Matthew Kachuk is a top-line player. And not only that, you probably have 2 great first lines or 2 great lines. If you were to have Granlund, Forsberg, and Duchesne on one line, Johansson, Kachuk, and Niederreiter on another line, that line would get after it.
Mm-hmm.
If you had those, I mean, that's a really good top 6.
Yes.
And that home road stuff, that matters. So, and then you've got, McDonough and Yossi and Ekholm, and you only have to put one crap bum in there with those 3 guys, which would probably be Carrier, and he sucks, but that's okay. That's okay. I can live with one bad player out of my top 6 and my top 2 defensive pairings. Mm-hmm. Adam in Portland, phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam, always good to talk to you. Go ahead.
Dude, if all these teams are going to be making trade packages, you need some type of differentiator. And nobody's talking about Saros. Like, Jared, you talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
They already have a goalie.
What if the Predators brought the Russian kid up and got rid of Saros? Saros is $5 million goalie who I guess was a Vezina candidate. I didn't see Vezina candidate play out of Saros. I saw a goalie who was unavailable in the playoffs. In the last playoffs he played in, he sucked bad. So why not package Saros? I mean, it would be nice to have an opportunity to see I would rather have a team that had Matthew Kachuk on it and not Saros than Saros and no Matthew Kachuk.
So when I talk about dealing Saros, thank you for the call, that is something in a couple of years I talk about doing in order to clear up cap space. But if you're going to compete right now, and Askarov might be Dominic Hasek, I have no idea. But right now, UC Saros, if you're trying to compete right now, which they say they are, and the moves that they make indicate they are, and then you go all in for Matthew Kachuk, Saros is the goalie.
Yes.
Like, there's no, not only that, Calgary doesn't want Saros because they already have a goalie.
Who is also a Vezina finalist.
Who is also 4 years and a no move. So they don't want more goalies. So that's out. Texter to the text line says, Matthew Kachuk isn't just the best forward. He is a marketing dream and will put Nashville on the map of TV scheduling, etc. Is that true? Is he a TV turner? I don't think he is.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, when PK Subban came here, that was the type of player who put you on the national TV schedule. And if I recall correctly, the Predators' national television appearances went up significantly over the time that PK was here. Now, Kachuk is a fun player, but would I rank him among the league's top personalities? Now, some of that has to do with the fact he plays in Calgary right now, but I wouldn't.
Could you? Yeah. Could you? So a texter texts in and says, Brian texts in and says, Shane Fabro, Tolvanen, and either a first and a third or any prospect the Predators have or 2 firsts. I don't know exactly what he's trying to say. Would a 1-for-1, would Calgary be interested in a 1-for-1 Duchesne for Kachuk? And would that be a good move?
Well, the money would work for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Duchesne had a strong season. The issue there is that he's 7 years older than Kachuk.
And not as good.
And not as good historically. So.
And what are the deals about that limited no move that?
Well, that hasn't taken effect yet. So if they want, Duchesne's modified no trade clause does not start until next season. So if they were to trade him this season, this league year, he has no say over his destination. But I don't see Calgary doing that because Duchesne had a great year last year, but he's an older player. Mm-hmm. Like, you're looking for younger players that can be part of your team for a long time, not guys that might bolt in 2 or 3 years.
Jeremy says, in response to your package, trade all the above and add Carrier. I got to say this. This may be one of the biggest disagreements that I have with what I call the mainstream Bobo Preds opinioning is Carrier. I think Carrier freaking sucks. Like, I think he is a third pair dude. I think he is freaking average. I think he's small. I don't think he's a great skater. I don't think he's a truly effective defenseman. I don't think he handles the puck well. I don't think he clears the puck well. And I don't think he's a good penalty killer. I think he had a nice little run at the end of the 21 season. I think he's an okay player, like Yannick Weber, okay player. I think that's what he is. And to be all rookie team and the way they talk about him is like he's the next guy. That it's, going all the way back to, Zidlicki. And he's the next, Timonen and Weber and Yossi and Ekholm and Ellis and Seth Jones and Subban and Carrier. And I just think Carrier is such a below-average player. And I thought it was so obvious when he tried to back-check Gabriel Landeskog in the first game of the Colorado series, fell down. He back-checked Landeskog. Landeskog at the last second puts his arm out, and it knocks Carrier to the ground, which tells you how small he is. And then Landeskog gets up. Carrier gets up, tries to get a position, drops his stick, and Landeskog, I think, goes right in for the goal, or passes it off, they go right in for the goal. He sucks. And anytime I talk to anybody with the Predators or anybody who, they're like, no, Jared, you don't understand hockey. He's great. Help me out here.
He reminds you a lot of Ryan Ellis, doesn't he?
No, because Ryan Ellis at least could put the puck on the net.
Okay.
Like Ryan Ellis was good on the power play.
But he got pushed around.
But, oh, God, he got pushed around.
I am not as sour on Carrier as you are. I do think that having look, Carrier, spent multiple seasons in the American League. He didn't crack the lineup until the past couple of years. And look, I think he was thrown into the proverbial deep end. I mean, when you play with Matthias Ekholm, you're taking on the best players. I think Carrier would probably be better served playing on a third pair with Jeremy Lauzon or Mark Borowiecki, where he's not getting his tough matchups. I think he did okay with Ekholm, but I think he's probably not suited for a shutdown role long term.
And I don't want him on the ice with Yossi. And that's exactly what the coach is going to do. 615-737-1025. Boy, do we normally get this many texts? Or is it just pop in today? That I don't know the answer to. But I do know this. The Tennessee Volunteers might be in some real trouble with the NCAA. And I'm about to have an I told you so moment. That's next. Stillman and Company right here. Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's 102.5 The Game.
Stuck at work without a radio?
Wait a minute. Disastrous.
I hate that.
It's got to be there.
That's okay.
Everything is not okay.
Download the Game Nashville app or go to theGameNashville.com and listen live. We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen. Attention furniture buyers. Social Furniture is having a huge summer blowout sale in all departments. Don't wait, buy now. Your new furniture can be delivered the same day. At Social Furniture, our professional staff is ready to serve you with your furniture purchase. Summer is the best time to buy new furniture at Social Furniture. The savings are spectacular. For a limited time, Social Furniture is offering special financing for up to 60 months. That's right, up to 60 months. Don't wait. Visit Social Furniture today to save.
It's Black Friday in July at Electronic Express. This week, get an LG 70-inch 4K TV for $599 or a Whirlpool 4-piece kitchen package for $27.99. Save up to 50% in every department at Electronic Express. Computers, appliances, 4K TVs, housewares, furniture, mattresses, and more. Don't miss out on an HP laptop for just $349 or a Samsung washer and dryer for $549 each. Shop in-store or online with free financing. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Smokeville Smoke Shop has been serving Hendersonville and Metro Nashville since 2015 and is committed to providing high quality, hands-on, and personable customer service. Stop in the Smokeville Smoke Shops in Hendersonville, Gallatin, Hermitage, and Goodlettsville to try any of their wide selection of locally sourced products and selection of top nationwide brands including vapes, hookah, hand-blown glass, detox systems, e-juices, kratom products, leaf wraps, a dab bar at the Hendersonville location, and much more. Visit Smokeville Smoke Shops today.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try Ziprecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
This is a big month for some of our teammates at Cromwell Media. At 102.5, 106.3 The Game, producer Kenny Adams is celebrating a 10-year anniversary. Also at The Game, morning show producer Michelle Knezovic and part-time producer Nick Keyser are both crossing the 1-year mark. At 102.9 The Buzz, Eric Steele, our rock star evening host, and Andy Herron, a part-time host, have been with us for 8 years. We are Cromwell Media and proud of our employees who commit themselves to excellence every day. Want to join our team? Contact us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios, Fireball Hot Take Friday. Adam Vingan here today, and it's a great day, and we will get back to your Matthew Kachuk calls and texts because, boy, they are popping. But, Adam, I'm going to have a talk with the fans here for a second. Now, as I said, I think there are more Preds fans in Nashville than there are Tennessee Volunteers fans. And I get the data. I get more data about what you all the fans care about than you have any idea. And that tracks with the data. But I do have to talk to the Tennessee Volunteer fans for just a second here. I want to take you back, Adam, to 2017. You had known your wife now for about 3 or 4 months at this point. Mm-hmm. And Tennessee had decided to pull the plug on Butch Jones. And they were looking for a coach. And then athletic director John Curry had come to an agreement with Greg Schiano, the then defensive coordinator at Ohio State, and the Tennessee fans revolted in the streets.
They painted on the rock.
I mean, they went all in. And they vetoed the hire. They got Greg Schiano unhired, and they got who I called the people's coach. Just like how The Rock is the people's champ, Jeremy Pruitt was the people's coach. He came in, and he had his press conference, and he said, and the Tennessee fans, this is our guy. This is why we got rid of Greg Schiano. Go fans. Go Twitter. Yes. Yes. And then Pruitt won in year 2. People forget about this. He won in year 2, and the Tennessee fans were like, that's our guy. Yes. 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 And I remember they gave him an extension before the 2020 season, and I said, why? He's doing an okay job. You do an okay job. You keep doing your job. You do a bad job, you get fired. You do a good job, get a contract. You do an okay job. You just keep doing your job, right? And they gave him an extension. And people called the show. You don't understand, Jared. Fulmer is telling us that Pruitt's our guy and that when Alabama calls when Saban retires, that Pruitt will be our guy. I was like, whoa, that's a take. Then they stunk. Then they fired him for cause. And I think the cause that they really fired him with was not the cause of, bad NCAA violations, but more so they really fired him because he wasn't winning. Because it's Tennessee. See what the NCAA did today?
Yes, I did.
They came out they accused Tennessee of, I believe it is 18 level 1 violations, which is a big deal. Reading from Adam Sparks in the Knoxville News Sentinel. In a notice of allegations presented Friday, the NCAA lists 18 violations and all. This knocks me on my ass. And almost $60,000 of cash or gifts provided to players and their families by Jeremy Pruitt. Now remember, nobody cares anymore about paying the players. But there is a way you're supposed to go about paying the players, and it is not from the coach. And when all this happened, this was before you were allowed to pay the players. So again, while it might be legal now, or while you might not care about $60,000, the NCAA has fired down 18 level 1 violations. The Knoxville News Sentinel obtained the 51-page document Friday. In the notice of allegations, the NCAA did credit Tennessee for self-reporting violations and its exemplary, thank you, cooperation in the investigation. It also did not find the university lacked institutional control, which is a big one.
Yes.
When they smack you down with the lack of institutional control, that is their way of saying, we're coming. So I have 2 thoughts on this. First off, congratulations, fans. You got your coach. You got your coach. And your team still sucks, and your program is still irrelevant, and now you got 18 level 1 violations. Congratulations to Clay Travis and all the fans out there that vetoed Greg Schiano's hiring on some secondhand bullcrap hearsay that was completely uncorroborated about his involvement with the Jerry Sandusky situation at Penn State. Way to go, Vols fans! My second take on this, I don't think UT is going to get in any real trouble.
I was just about to ask you that.
That's a shame. That's a shame. Because I think there's a couple factors at play here. First off, I do believe the NCAA has already said the NCAA has no precedented punishments. And I would know this. I went to Louisville, and I go on the radio there every week. And I was on the radio there for a couple years. And I don't know if you've noticed, but at the University of Louisville, we've had quite a few NCAA violations over the years, including paying for prostitutes for recruits inside of the team dorm.
Yes.
So we've had a lot going on. So I know a little bit more about how this all works. By not throwing down the lack of institutional control, that is where the NCAA brings the heat. When you hear lack of institutional control, that is where they are loading the torpedo bays and they are getting ready to open fire. So to not have that, I think, was a big deal. They also talked about Tennessee's exemplary cooperation. Now, at Louisville, we hired the NCAA's lawyer. We decided to miss the NCAA tournament. I believe we had Donovan Mitchell on our team when we decided to do that. Like, we bent over for the NCAA and said, whatever. And the NCAA still dropped the hammer And the NCAA, the way that they work is they roll out of bed and they just decide whatever they want to do. But I think between the fact that, A, the NCAA feels completely toothless right now, especially when it comes to college football. I don't even know what they do. Like the NCAA, I don't even know if they can keep you from competing in the college football playoff anymore. So the NCAA is completely useless. Secondly, I believe that they don't want to punish Tennessee big, which is why they're already laying the groundwork for why they won't punish Tennessee big. And thirdly, and I think this is probably another caveat to all of this as far as now it is legal to pay players. So whereas 5 years ago, $60,000, the coach paying the players $60,000 would have been, oh my God, how dare you? Now it's kind of like, we know that they pay the players legally now, so what's the difference? It shouldn't matter, because if the rules then were don't do it, and then you did it, you should still be in trouble. But I believe the NCAA will make Jeremy Pruitt the fall guy in this. I think they will give him a massive show cause, and I think Tennessee fans will avoid any real punishments that matter outside of scholarship reduction and other things you don't care about. But I hope the NCAA comes down big. And again, 2 reasons. 1, I thought it was total clownery, the whole hiring Jeremy Pruitt process. And 2, and I think Tennessee should be punished for that. And 2, what?
Nothing.
And 2, was it not total clownery?
I mean, from a neutral,
you don't care.
From a neutral observer, I really didn't care, but it was a bit of a gong show.
As the beat writer that covered the hockey team,
yes,
at the Tennessean when that all went down,
I had no skin in the game.
Were you at all embarrassed that, like, you cover sports here, you don't cover that team, but that was so embarrassing across the country?
Well, the most embarrassing part was the Dan Patrick clip, right, where he alleged that they were giving recruits
McDonald's
money.
bags.
But there actually were 2 McDonald's-related instances in the violations.
That is true.
One was apparently, I have it in front of me, an assistant coach and maybe a recruiting director, I'm not sure who these people are, and, quote, arranged and or provided approximately $225 in impermissible meals from McDonald's for redacted name and University of Tennessee Knoxville branded clothing, including 2 beanies and 2 hooded sweatshirts.
See, I don't care about any of that.
Like, to me that doesn't seem so
but
bad.
$60,000?
That also doesn't seem that bad. Like now, I guess. But
back then?
Yeah.
Do we change the rules? I don't know.
Well, that's the question is, when this happened, what they were doing was illegal.
Completely illegal and was – they did what? I mean, remember, the FBI was arresting people over this. I remember when this all happened with the FBI and thinking that some of my conduct in the past may not have been completely kosher. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think I was breaking any laws. I just thought, it was the NCAA. Those aren't real laws. And then people went to jail, and I was like, oh, my God. Like, this might be some serious stuff. And then, after the fact, it's not serious stuff, and nobody cares anymore. So, I don't know. I do want the NCAA to bring the hammer down. Even though
what's
I
a
don't
reasonable
even think
punishment in your mind for this?
The death penalty.
The death penalty?
No.
Okay. Let's
no.
Let's not get
kidding.
crazy.
Kidding.
I know. Scholarship reduction?
I would put in a bowl ban. I would, just because. See, here's what bothers me about the whole thing. More so, and this is just me, and at least I can be honest. People who are homers who they won't ever admit to being a homer, but just happens to be that every time it's their team that's being wronged. And it's not that they're a homer, but it's just, how dare they do this to my team? I'm not like that. If I have if I have an ulterior motive, I'm going to let you know straight up why. I thought the hiring of Pruitt was so clown. It just was such a clown show. And I thought the reason they fired him was so disingenuous. I think the reason they fired him was to get out of the contract extension that they had no business signing. I think that if Jeremy Pruitt was winning football games, instead of giving this information to the NCAA, they would have buried it under, in the closet or underneath the carpet so that nobody would have had any idea. And because of that, I don't think you should get credit for using the NCAA as a scapegoat to fire your coach, who you hired because you vetoed the other coach on Twitter.
You just want to punish Vol fans for what they did.
Yes!
That's all this is.
This was your coach. You should have to live with the drama.
They made their bed. They have to lay in it.
They would not have fired him if he was winning, and everybody knows that. So with that, we'll open it up to phones. 615-737-1025. I will be real with you. What do I think happens? Some scholarship reductions, some recruiting visit reductions, things that nobody really cares about. That's what will happen to the Volunteers. I don't think you'll miss a bowl game or be ineligible or anything else. But again, this happened in the era of paying the players being bad, and I didn't like it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get your thoughts in on that. I also have an SEC Media Days take that I want to get to. I obviously was not at SEC Media Days. Caroline did a great job while I was out. But I have an SEC Media Days take I want to get to as well. Stillman and Company right here. Adam Vingan's in on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's 102.5 The Game. Let me tell you about Souls for Music City. That's right. We want to help out all those kids out there. And, of course, school is right around the corner. With school being right around the corner, kind of the big key with that is we want to make sure that the kids can get shoes for those that can't afford them. And our friends at Newton Motor Group is a proud sponsor of Souls for Music City. And so right now, what we're doing is we're trying to raise money for Souls to provide shoes to children experiencing homelessness in Nashville and the surrounding area. And we need your help in order to do it. So go to thegamenashville.com/shoes. That's thegamenashville.com/shoes. Newton Motor Group is a proud sponsor of Souls for Music City. Newton Motor Group, the best car deals in Nashville start at Newton.
And here we go! Every Tuesday at 11, the Music City Grand Prix is green! The DDC will get you set for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix by talking to some of IndyCar's best drivers.
Pleased to be joined by Scott Dixon.
I can't wait, man, and thanks for having me on, and looking forward to getting back to Nashville.
Weekly driver interviews are presented by Social Furniture in West Nashville. Shop their summer blowout sale now till July 31st. 60 months with no interest and same-day delivery. And by the Nashville Sheriff on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Staples has everything you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples, the working and learning store.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. Being arrested doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. Being served with custody paperwork doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. It may feel that way, but if you have Amanda J. Gentry representing you, you can feel confident that you're going to have the best quality representation in all of Middle Tennessee. Amanda J. Gentry goes wherever justice demands. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Jason Bottom's Led Zeppelin Evening. Live. An unforgettable evening of Led Zeppelin's greatest hits and deepest cuts. November 30th at Ryman Auditorium. Tickets on sale now at Ryman.com. Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Evening, sponsored by PNC Bank and Access, proud partners of Ryman Auditorium.
Erectile dysfunction ruins sex, but it's more than that. It harms otherwise good relationships. It destroys marriages. It can cause depression and anxiety, and it can be extremely hard on a man's self-esteem. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're suffering with ED, if it's affecting you, I want you to know that if you're like most men, we can treat it and get you back to the man you used to be. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we're ED experts. Our protocols have success rates as high as 90%. We've successfully treated thousands of men in the Music City, and we have a variety of treatment options and treatment combinations that could have you performing like you haven't in years. You could even last up to an hour and experience great sex again that is satisfying for both you and your partner. In treating your health, expertise matters, so make an appointment today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
Parkway. Nashville's Best Deals is a great place to save cash fast. Get up to half off or more on dining and entertainment at thegamenashville.com/deals. Check back often for new featured deals and save money now at thegamenashville.com/deals.
It's on. It's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way. I'm watching the game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Nashville's best deal of the week is Bavarian Beer House at Opry Hills. Bavarian Beer House, Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, is a place full of fun, food, music, and most importantly, beer. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals now to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to Bavarian Beer House while supplies last. So again, the NCAA has noticed the has sent the University of Tennessee a notice of allegations, 18 level 1 violations under Jeremy Pruitt, including stuff done by Jeremy Pruitt's wife, which does count, and I don't think it's an accident that the NCAA responded on a Friday during the summer and after Tennessee win at SEC Media Days. I believe the lack of institutional control that the NCAA is not accusing Tennessee of is ultimately foreshadowing that Tennessee will get off and that this won't be a big deal. I hope they throw the book at Tennessee. Just because I hate the Jeremy Pruitt. The fans should be punished, in my opinion, for the Jeremy Pruitt era. With that, let's go to your phones, unless you have a thought.
No thoughts.
Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Bo is up next
What's
here on
up,
Fireball
guys?
Hot Take
What's
Friday.
up?
Go ahead, Bo.
So I absolutely agree with you. Kind of stole my thunder a little bit there. I think it's obvious that, they dropped it a day after the SEC Media Days because they didn't want to. I mean, it's a done deal. Tennessee has already complied with some scholarship reductions in last year's class. I think the punishment has already been given down. I think Sankey's already known about it. That's why it dropped, the day instead of media days. And I'm a Vols fan, so I just want to win. I thought the Schiano thing was a clown show as well. But anyway, I think it's a foregone conclusion, and I'd be surprised if they don't have 80, 82 scholarship players at the end of the year. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me. I'll get off and listen.
Yeah, I hear you both. Thank you for your call. Do fans care about that? Like, do fans care about scholarship reductions?
If you're a diehard college football fan, you might.
So, like, if you're a message board person.
Yes.
But if you're not a message board person, if you're a regular person, do you care at all about scholarship reductions or recruiting visits or anything like that, which is ultimately what I think is going to happen to Tennessee here?
Well, what kind of what is the quality of player that's losing a scholarship? Like, it's not your starting quarterback.
No, the kid that they paid $8 million to come in and be the quarterback, he'll still have a scholarship.
Yes. So you're losing, the bottom end of the roster type player, right?
Then again, how many times do we hear about, nobody wanted to offer J.J. Watt, and look at what he became,
right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, well, you can always find one or two of those stories. Yeah, I mean, on the football team too, because there are so many players, I feel like scholarship reductions on a basketball team are different because how many players are on a college basketball team? 15?
12.
12. Okay, so not even. So that I think makes a difference. But when you have what's the limit for a college football roster?
Like 100?
Yeah. 1 or 2 scholarship reductions, 4 or 5 doesn't really seem to make a huge difference.
You're still going to beat Vanderbilt and South Carolina, and you're still going to lose to Georgia and Florida. I mean, that's how I view it.
Right. It doesn't seem like something that will completely change the team's competitive balance.
Which I don't like because, again, I think the fans should be punished. James from Clarksville says on the text line, Jared sounds like a crybaby Vanderbilt Commodores fan. Bad thing is, even with all the recruiting violations and loss of scholarships, Tennessee will still beat Vanderbilt like a drum. Say something to that. I think you listen to the show enough. I did grow up a Vanderbilt fan. I have no allegiance to Vanderbilt right now. I mean, I like the coach, and I got to give the coach credit because as dumb as that whole thing about Vanderbilt's going to be the best team in the country was, it did get people talking about Vanderbilt. He was on Jim Rome the next day. Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless were apparently debating about that. I don't know how they could debate about that, but apparently they were. So I guess that worked. But I don't care about Vanderbilt. I have no allegiance to Vanderbilt. I grew up a Vanderbilt fan, and as soon as I went to college, I no longer cared about Vanderbilt. And that's how I feel right now. Do I hope Vanderbilt does well? I guess. Do I know that everything that they do on a day-to-day basis is going to keep them from doing well going forward? Yes. So to me, it's not so much about the Vanderbilt thing. I would say that I am a little bit of a crybaby over how the NCAA has absolutely porked Louisville. Took away our national championship. Now, what we did was wrong, but I mean, they're paying the players. And this was, back when paying the players was not legal. Mm-hmm. Kenny says that what you may or may not understand, Jared, is that you might be the only person in Tennessee who cares about the Schiano deal. I think I'm the only person who cares because I can't remember what everybody else was talking about then. But, I mean, I was the only one who called it a clown show when it was a clown show. And
what was the time frame for that? I'm sorry.
I believe it was November of 2017.
That's when the Predators traded for Kyle Turris.
So I think this all happened at the same time. Was Butch Jones got whacked. The Predators were really good and really starting to move the needle. The Titans were having that season where they started off well under Malarkey, but then they started to lose under Malarkey, and they ultimately made the playoffs, and then Malarkey got fired. So all that was going on. And then this mess. I remember on a Titans Monday, the Titans beat the Colts in Indianapolis, and we did one segment on the Titans that day, and for the rest of the week, it was 4 hours of Vols talk and loaded phone lines the entire time, talking about the Schiano and should they go higher, and then the athletic director got thrown out, and they brought in Philip Fulmer, and then Philip Fulmer was looking for a coach, and I mean, people were fired up at that point in time.
I think it's the first time that a fan base crowdsourced a head coach. I also have a text on my personal text line. See if you can guess who this is from. Is Jared talking about Schiano again? Tell him I said he's a moron.
Am I right? Joe Rexrode?
It is Joe Rexrode.
Okay, all right. Again, I think the fans should be punished. That's all I'm saying. Pruitt was your coach. He was the people's coach. And you, the fans, extended him because it was the people's athletic director who was the one that gave him the extension, Philip Fulmer. I loved it. I love the stupidity around this idea. 10 years prior, they fired Philip Fulmer because the game had passed him. 10 years later, they gave him a promotion to athletic director. Athletic director is a promotion above football coach. And I was laughing so hard when people would call the show and they'd be like, well, Phil, he's the guy we need as athletic director because he bleeds orange. I mean, the Vols, he loves the Vols. And I'm thinking to myself, anybody who you would hire to be athletic director would give 100%. Just because Philip Fulmer went to Tennessee and coached Tennessee does not mean that the other guy, that he's going to give 110%. And it doesn't mean that the other guy, if you were to bring in a real athletic director, like the athletic director that they ran out of town who hired Tony Vitello because they didn't hire the coach you all wanted, if that guy, he probably gave 100% too. And I just don't like the being rewarded for stupidity. And that's what's going to happen. When Tennessee fired Jeremy Pruitt, to me, it was so transparent. It wasn't about NCAA violations. It was that they didn't think he was a good coach. And, you should have to pay for that. And Tennessee's going to get off scot-free. They're not going to win any football games, but they're going to get off scot-free. So,
given the choice, would you rather had Greg Schiano as Tennessee head coach or John Gruden? Weren't there a lot of groomers around that time, too? Wasn't that always a thing?
So I never thought Gruden was a good coach. I never bought into the whole, John Gruden thing. And he was never going to go to Tennessee. Now, if they offered, he might. Because I don't think anybody else is offering him a job.
No, I don't think he is.
Took him out of the Ring of Honor at Tampa Bay. But, oh, man. Oh, it's so tough. People are talking. 13... You know what? I'm glad I don't read the text line on a daily basis because it's 13 scholarships, not 12 basketball scholarships. I'm sorry. 13 basketball scholarships instead of 12. Texter says, why would you want a job in the Nashville market and then antagonize Vol fans and call for them to be punished? because they should be punished because this was their coach. Like, I'm sorry. I'm the biggest Titans fan, right? I'm a diehard Titans fan, diehard Predators fan, diehard Atlanta Braves fan, and I went to Louisville. And if the Titans did something that deserved punishment, I would be clamoring for the punishment. I would not be saying, oh, no, I think it's not fair to punish my team. Just tell it like it is. And I thought that I believe that the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, Heupel, he might be a good coach. I don't know. You all loved Butch Jones after his first season. So that doesn't, and you all loved Pruitt after his second season. So that I don't care about that. Heupel might be a good coach. It might work. It's probably not going to, but it might. Let's say that if it does, then the Tennessee fans will have suffered no consequences for their actions that were just horrendous for a 3-year period. And I just don't like that. I don't like being right and there being no ramification for how the Vol fans were so wrong about everything that had to do with Jeremy Pruitt. And if you hired the guy and then he commits 18 level 1 NCAA violations, you should be in trouble. That's just my thought.
I'd like you to argue that case in front of the NCAA.
Here's the problem with the NCAA. All they do is roll out of bed and then decide what to do. There's no precedent with the NCAA. There's no, North Carolina, doesn't matter. Whatever the NCAA wakes up that day and decides to do. The problem is that the NCAA, I find the NCAA to be so irrelevant. Like, they're just so toothless. And that's how I see this playing out. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's just get back to your phones. 615-737-1025 here on Stillman and Company. Fireball Hot Take Friday. I love Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey because it tastes so great. And there is no better way to celebrate the start of the weekend than with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I was having Fireball on my vacation. I think I'm going to have some Fireball now to celebrate the end of my vacation. There you go, Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Ignite tonight. Please do it responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey.
This is Phil Tomasino, and this is Smashville.
Cousins put it in front of the score. Tomasino lofts it in. 2-0 Nashville.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Family Leisure is having a come out and play sale.
That's right. Family Leisure is inviting you to come out and play with the new swimming pool, spa, or patio furniture set.
Hundreds of pools in stock and on sale. DIY pools start at only $16.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99 installed.
Installation in less than 10 days on average.
More than 100 spas in stock and incoming. Artesian, Strong, and LPI spas starting at only $29.99.
What about the patio furniture?
Family Leisure has hundreds of sets in stock and on sale. Hanneman, Woodard, Tropitone, and Loft, all ready for immediate delivery.
Family Leisure also has the Sabre Infrared Grill in stock and on sale at only $11.99, and the Bull Grill Islands at only $39.99.
And Family Leisure has the Diamond Point Play Gym at only $25.99 installed and ready for immediate delivery.
Pool tables, massage chairs, and theater seating all on sale and ready for immediate delivery.
Come out and play at both huge locations, Franklin and Antioch.
Our diamonds are direct from the source, direct from the cutters. There's no middlemen, there's no markup.
Meet Ben Wilkes, 10-year jewelry professional at Genesis Diamonds.
We've got everything from half a carat all the way up to 15 carats and everything in between. So I never have to go looking for something.
And if you're in search of that one-of-a-kind designer ring,
lots of times they come in and she's got a very specific picture, something that she wants, and she's shocked and amazed when I go right to a case and pull exactly what she's been looking at out.
And beyond the best price and selection, every customer at Genesis gets one-on-one personal attention with no hidden agenda.
Every customer that I've ever worked with has my personal cell phone number. It doesn't come from an automated system. It is person-to-person interaction. We're not on commission, so what that means is regardless of what you buy or don't buy, I'm paid the same.
Genesis Diamonds.
Here you get more, you get bigger, better, you get prettier. The quality, the selection, transparency, customer service, it can't be touched. It's unmatched.
Green Hills and Cool Springs.
IndyCar is back in downtown Nashville. Single-day tickets for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, August 5th through the 7th, are on sale Wednesday, June 29th. Enjoy action-packed racing, huge concerts, cheering fans, and the biggest party of the year. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is a weekend full of entertainment you don't want to miss. Get tickets at musiccitygp.com.
Sunday. The stars of the NASCAR Cup Series heads to the Tricky Triangle at Pocono. Coverage begins at 1 on your racing station. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is Greg McElroy, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hey, Josh. Wilson Alexander with The Advocate. The NIL question, how does your program go about managing that, especially when it comes to possibly interacting with any sort of collective?
Yeah, for us, I think there's great opportunity in it. I mentioned Hendon and what he's been able to do, have an impact on our community, on youth inside of our community in particular. It's an opportunity to educate and empower our student athletes, which is what college football and the collegiate experience is all about. I think it's dramatically changed the way that young people come into your program and how thoughtful they are about every situation that they're involved in and how they're portrayed in what's being out there on social media, the decisions that they're making every night of the week. And I think in those ways, it's such a empowering tool for our student athletes. And, I just go back to myself as a player and certainly the most powerful thing that I had was my teammates and the logo that I was playing for. At the same time, though, I think I was creating some value there too, and I would have liked to have had an opportunity to been afforded to take part in NIL, and would have liked to have, worn my starting left tackle's jersey or worn his shirt. And I look at my own kids, Jason, Hannah, they get a chance to run around the house or run with their friends and wear Cedric Tillman and Hendon Hooker shirt or jersey. I think there's empowering opportunities through NIL.
Do people care about that stuff?
What?
Josh Heupel at SEC Media Days talking about, I totally tuned that out. Him talking about NIL. Like, I would have liked it when I played. Well, no, duh, you would have liked it when you played. You were the national championship quarterback in Oklahoma. You would have made a lot of money. Of course you like that. No, duh. Duh. Like, oh, man. I thought SEC Media Days, I thought Caroline did a great job. I thought SEC Media Days was a freaking snoozer. And I kind of hate them because I'm getting to the point where it's a waste of everybody's time, except for the league networks that put them on. But, these press conferences are so boring. And people say such bullcrap, like the Vanderbilt coach who said that they're going to be the best program in the country. Okay. Or the South Carolina coach that was talking about, hey, we're getting national attention. People around the country are talking about South Carolina. I'll tell you something, coach. I do a national radio show on the weekends on Sirius XM. Nobody is talking about South Carolina football. So that's my, this week in SEC Media Days. And, of course, they wait till after Tennessee goes for the NCAA to drop the bomb. 18 level 1 violations for Tennessee. Let's go to your phones as promised. Pete on this Fireball Hot Take Friday has been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, guys, it's Keith from Bowling Green.
Oh, what's up, Keith? Go ahead.
Hey, Jared, I was just thinking, he was talking about how you wanted Tennessee fans to suffer and all that, and if the Titans done something wrong, you'd want them to be punished. But whenever it comes to the University of Louisville, whenever they have hookers up in their dorm room getting paid, they were the original McDonald bag full of money. You want them to still keep everything that they had before. Anyway,
no, sir, Keith. When that happened, I got in trouble with a lot of people there because I was like, you got to fire Rick Pitino. And they were like, fire Rick Pitino? I was like, yes. And I like Rick Pitino. And up until then, Rick Pitino liked me. But then he stopped. And I still like him. But, I am not a bobo. Maybe sometimes I'm a little too far in the other direction. But I am absolutely not a Kool-Aid drinking, let me change the argument to fit my side. I believe a lot of America, and this is much bigger than Tennessee, though Tennessee fans absolutely enter into this category. I believe a lot of America has become essentially a football fan over pass interference, which is, was that play pass interference? I don't know. Am I on offense or defense? Oh, I'm on offense? Yes! He hooked him. Look at it. How's he supposed to catch a ball? Throw the flag. I'm on defense. Oh, he didn't touch him. I mean, come on. I mean, it's incidental. It was, what? And I don't do that. Like, I watch the plays when they happen in Titans games, and I see, a Titans corner take down a receiver, and I'm like, that's a flag. That's a flag. Or I see a guy get held, and I'm like, oh, thanks, Taylor. That's how I am. So, anywho, I just think this was their coach. This was their coach. Texter says, I don't think there are many Vol fans who wanted Pruitt. He is just the guy that Phil stuck us with. Wrong. I did the radio then, and I remember everybody saying, this is the guy we need. This is our guy. He did the press conference where he sounded like a good Southern ball coach. And everybody loved him. And I remember that like it was yesterday. You know what actually kind of sucks is that, Floyder was very pro Jeremy Pruitt. And I don't think he knew Jeremy Pruitt, but because Saban had probably told him good things about Pruitt, he probably believed them. And, when the 2020 season was going on and Tennessee was starting to fall apart, I used to kind of be, what do you think of Pruitt now? What do you think of Pruitt now? And right kind of when the dam popped for Tennessee football was right when Floyd got sick and left the radio show. Mm-hmm. So he was never here for kind of the combustion of the Jeremy Pruitt era. So I never got to put that back in his face. But he was very pro Jeremy Pruitt. And the fans, very pro Jeremy Pruitt. You know who was not overly pro Jeremy Pruitt ever?
You.
Correct. When they lost to Georgia Southern State or whatever it was. And I was like, see. Oh, man, those were some good times. Then they lost to BYU. I was at my cousin's wedding, and they lost to BYU, and I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. And I was just happy because of all the Tennessee fans that had called in the week before screaming at me about Pruitt when I was like, see, I told you guys he's not that good of a coach. And then they lost to BYU after they lost to Georgia Southern State. And I was like, yes, see. I root for the take. That's what I root for. Unless I like the guy that I have to talk bad about. Like Tannehill. I like Tannehill. He's a good guy. He's a great guy. I hope he does well this season. Dexter says, with the introduction of NIL, scholarships are basically irrelevant now. Take away all of a college's scholarships, and they'll just find NIL money to cover the kid's school and get them extra money. I don't think that's true. I think if the idea is, hey, we don't have a scholarship to give you, so in NIL money, we're going to give you $100,000 instead of $60,000. I think the kid would be like, no, just give me the $40,000, but I'm not going to. Like, you still have to pay for me to go to school. We're not doing that. Give me the money. I do wonder, does everything that was ever true about the NCAA, is that out the window now that you can essentially, though there is a way around it, even though you can pay the players, does the NCAA just now adjudicate everything in the past with, well, it's legal now?
I think that's a slippery slope if you do that. If it was illegal back then, it should be considered illegal now in the case of what's going on with Tennessee. I mean, maybe the penalty isn't as harsh, but I feel like there still has to be some sort of punishment.
The other thing I don't like is I don't like the people who say, well, everybody does it, so it doesn't matter. I don't like that. Because then you could use that for any reason to excuse bad behavior.
Yes.
Everybody does it. Well, okay.
Well, they didn't get caught.
Knock, knock. IRS. You didn't pay your taxes. You lied about this. Everybody does it. That's not how that works. 615-737-1025. Okay, let's reset the Matthew Kachuk discussion, because I think as bad as the Predators want people to celebrate their signing of Nino Niederreiter, it has been completely overshadowed by the possibility that the Predators could get Matthew Kachuk. And we'll get back into your phones on it. Adam Vingan's in for Caroline. Stillman and Company on 102.5 The Game.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Apple Collision Centers and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway
On ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
The extreme heat continues. As we head into the weekend, we'll look for highs near 100, heat index values as high as 108. Mainly sunny skies both Saturday and Sunday. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
This is Chef John from Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville. Invite you to come join us for breakfast and lunch. We are offering some exciting new menu items. For breakfast, we have a smoked prime rib hash. Comes with a sunny side up egg, hominy, caramelized onions. It's a great start to your day. We are featuring a sourdough pancake made with a sourdough bread starter. It's a fun spin on the classic buttermilk pancake. As always, Kitchen Notes is serving biscuits all day. Come join us and create a memorable experience here at the Omni Hotel. Food is all about memories for us. We'd like you to start a new memory here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Hotel.
Breakfast at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
QC Kinetics patient Robert Patterson, a veteran and business owner, struggled at work and in the gym with chronic agonizing shoulder pain.
Those injuries just continue to nag, and if you don't treat them, they just get worse. And I just kind of abused my body for a long time, and it finally had said enough is enough.
That's okay, because QC Kinetics tells your pain, hey, enough is enough. Their regenerative treatments bring you relief by helping restore and repair damaged tissue with no drugs, no downtime, and best of all, no surgery.
I was able to exceed the goals that I had previously attained in the gym. It was absolutely worth its weight in gold, so I could continue to live life without limitation.
Ready to get lasting relief from your joint pain? Call QC Kinetics to learn more about how natural biologic treatments can get you lasting results. Call now. It's a free consultation.
615-249-4024. QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman Tractor and Equipment. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Their service and parts team will get your work site up and running in no time. Parman Tractor and Equipment will come to you for service if needed. Visit ParmanTractor.com for more info. Your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer, providing totally outrageous customer service.
Hey, it's Jared. If you're listening to us on I-24 towards Murfreesboro or I-65 towards Spring Hill, make sure you check out 106.3 for another great way to hear Nashville's best sports talk.
Darren McFarland.
I feel like we're a better playoff team.
Willie Donick.
You're in a window of a division you can win.
Chase McCabe.
I'm not signing him for more than $1 million.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Yeah, I think he is a difference maker. I mean, anybody puts up 100-plus points. But the thing about Matthew Kachuk that I know Predators fans are familiar with is just he does a little bit of everything. Like, there aren't many players in the league who have the skill set, a little bit of toughness. He's a pest. I think teammates get behind him. He kind of takes charge. So there's so much to his game that I think he would be a difference maker. But you nailed it as, what do you have to give up? I mean, if you're giving up, let's just say you got to move a player that put up 70-plus points for you. How do you replace that? If you have to move a couple players, you move a defenseman. I just think that you're going to have to create some sort of hole by bringing in Matthew Kachuk, and certainly he's going to fill up a lot of it. But does he fill up everything if you're giving up a number of players to make this thing work? So that's the biggest thing. But certainly any team, the three teams you mentioned, Nashville, Dallas, St. Louis, any team he comes in, he's definitely going to make an impact.
There you go. That was Jeremy Rutherford on Robbie and Rex Road. The Matthew Kachuk dangling is out there. Adam Vingan, who's in today, he says go for him. I say go for him. Corey Curtis, News 2 earlier today, said go for him. I have not read this, but apparently Gentry Estes in the Tennessean said go for him.
He did.
You and I both believe that David Poyle is not going to go for Matthew Kachuk.
I'm skeptical, to say the least.
What makes you so skeptical?
I just think that I feel that David Poyle might look at this team right now, see that he upgraded on defense, see that he upgraded at forward, because Niederreiter is an upgrade, although the bar to clear of being an upgrade in the top 6 was relatively low because of the play of Eli Tolvanen and Luke Cunnin last season mostly. But I could see him looking at this roster and feeling that the necessary improvements have been made, and that trading for Matthew Kachuk, as Jeremy alluded to in the clip you just played, might remove 1 or 2 players from the lineup, which might strengthen it in some areas but weaken it in others.
Texter says, Mike and Brentwood, if Kachuk could be acquired without having to deal any of the current top 6 except for Tomasino, what would the first and second line combos look like with Kachuk added to the mix with the other 5? That's pretty obvious to me, right? Forsberg, Granlund, Duchesne, Johansson, Niederreiter, Kachuk.
You could I mean, Forsberg, Granlund, and Duchesne have proof of concept, and Niederreiter, Johansson, and Kachuk would be a nasty line. Like, that would not be a line I would want to be on the ice against. Because Niederreiter is a heavy forechecker, and Kachuk is a pest, and Johansson, when he wants to, can throw his weight around. That would be a dangerous line to be on the ice against.
Here's the problem, though. You do that with the deal, and every deal that we've talked about involves Colton Sissons going the other way.
Yeah.
If the Predators do that and they end up trading Sissons, then Ryan Johansson probably has to play on the penalty kill because somebody has to take draws.
I guess Granlund would play on one unit. Yeah, Johansson might have to, or
Granlund, Jeannot, Johansson, and Trenton would probably be your penalty killers. Unless you want to stick Duchesne out there.
I wouldn't.
Niederreiter's a penalty killer, right?
I think so. He's sound defensively.
But he's not a center.
I don't know how many face-offs he takes.
Yeah, I don't think he takes. I mean, they're so solid down the middle there in Carolina that whether it was Trocheck or
Jordan Stahl.
Yeah, I mean, they were so elite that there was no way Niederreiter was doing that. So that's a little bit of a concern. Now, the 2 power play units would be freaking nuts if it was, again, the Adam Vingan package. Fabro, Sissons, Tomasino, prospect, first-round pick. If that was the package, the 2 power play units would be on fire because you're adding literally all 3 guys that you've traded for. McDonough, Niederreiter, and Kachuk would all be on a second power play unit to go with probably Ekholm and
Tolvanen.
Because if Tolvanen's not there, then there's no point for him to be on the team.
Right.
If he's not going to be on the power play. Speaking of Tolvanen, Josh asks, would you be willing to get rid of Tolvanen and Granlund to get Kachuk and then go sign another cheaper wing or developing player? Let me just answer this before we get a cheaper wing and developing player. Yes! Granlund is average. They like him more than everybody else likes him, but he's an average player. Average. And Tolvanen, he popped for about 3 weeks. And outside of those 3 weeks, 5 years of nothing. Yes, there is not a single player on the team that is better than Matthew Kachuk, except maybe Yossi. That's it. So to sit there and say, and there's going to be a lot of this over the next couple of weeks, unless this thing dies down or Malik Willis goes out and throws for 800 touchdowns, and we're talking about anything else, but there's going to be so much of I don't know about giving up Jeannot, and I don't know about, Tanner Jeannot's an average player. This guy's awesome. There's no discussing it.
And I believe Matthew Kachuk is younger than Tanner Jeannot.
Matthew Kachuk's younger than all of them except for Tomasino. And I guess Tolvanen. But,
yeah.
I mean, if the deal that you brought up earlier, if that was actually possible, David should run to the phone. David should drive those guys to Calgary in order to make that trade.
It's a long drive.
All right, you know what? We're fear of airplanes, right? Just drive it to Calgary.
Was it like the Madden bus?
Yes.
Get the Madden bus?
Do it.
Yes. Got no problem with it. I mean, Greg Wyshynski had a story today on ESPN.com where he took, I think, 9 teams and presented a pitch. And his deal was actually better than mine in terms of running to the phone. I think it was Colton Sissons, Philip Tomasino, Jeremy Lauzon in their first-round pick.
Oh, God.
What if Jeremy Lauzon got you Matthew Kachuk? Would that be okay? Would you remember him fondly if Lauzon helped get you Matthew Kachuk?
If Jeremy Lauzon was part of a package to get Matthew Kachuk, and like a real part of the package, where it was like they value Lauzon more than they would have valued the second-round pick that the Predators used in order to get Lauzon, David Boyle could literally walk outside my house, drop his pants, and moon me, and I would have no problem with it. I would be like, fine. You know what? You're right. Because like mooning somebody is like a couple steps up from the middle finger, right?
I feel like mooning was something that was popular when David was probably a kid.
Like in the 70s.
Yes.
Mooning was a thing.
I mean, it was a thing on Grease.
I think now with like phones, people don't moon because then someone's going to take a picture of your butt.
Yes.
But back in the day, David...
Bring back mooning. Well, we need to be mooning more.
David could moon me and would be totally right for doing it if he trades Jeremy Lauzon, and that's part of a crap bum package in order to get Kachuk. What was that package from Wyshynski?
I think it was Sissons, Tomasino, Lauzon, and a first-round pick. I may be missing a piece, but I think that was it.
God. Fire the general manager if that was what he got in return for Matthew Kachuk. I will say this, though. I've looked up over the years, when big boy forwards get traded because they don't like their situation, sometimes it works, and sometimes somebody gets a haul. You know, the Bruins traded Phil Kessel, and they got the picks that led to Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton. Later, they turned around and they dealt Seguin, and they got nothing in return.
It was like Louis Erickson,
Joe Morrow, Riley Smith.
Rich Peverly in that deal,
yeah,
too?
Peverly went with Seguin.
Okay, he went with Seguin.
And it was like Joe Morrow, who sucked, and Riley Smith, who's carved out an okay career for himself.
Just re-signed in Vegas.
Bottom 6 guy. But, it was nothing. I mean, it was a total horses for pony deal. And that, if you were to trade that package, no disrespect to Sissons, but if you were to trade that, I would say that's a pretty pony deal. Texter says, is it possible to get Kachuk without moving someone from the current top 6? How does the cap line up? What are your thoughts on the whole cap situation and Kachuk as is?
Well, it is tight, and unlike the NFL, which has a salary cap,
a fake one,
quote unquote, for you, it is a hard cap in the NHL. This is not a luxury tax situation like in Major League Baseball or anything like that. Basketball. So you got a limit. It's $82.5 million, and that's how much you have to spend. And it's a good question because you could either move out one of your higher paid players, like Mikael Granlund, for example, who makes $5 million against the cap, or you might have to cobble together multiple lesser players, quote unquote, like Colton Sissons and Dante Fabro or Jeremy Lauzon. Those 3 players combined, it's that's probably like $7 or $8 million, because they're not taking Ryan Johansson, who makes $8. Here's the question for you. I mean, if getting Matthew Kachuk meant this is hypothetical. If trading Matthew Kachuk meant having to trade Matthias Ekholm, whose contract just started, but $6.25 million against the cap, would you do it?
Probably, but it's still robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. See, that's what I would try to avoid doing.
I mean, even moving Granlund or Johansson, both of whom.
Right. You're losing one of your top 6 centers.
Like, you're still. That's where I think about this, and I'm like, how can you trade for Kachuk without? That's why I don't care about the picks and the prospects.
Right.
And they may be great picks and great prospects.
I mean, the choice you could make is if you trade Granlund, you could move Matt Duchene back to center.
Which would be what I mean. Again, I told you yesterday my deal would be Granlund, Sissons, Fabro, Tolvanen, LaRue, and a first-round pick.
Yeah.
And that's only because I think that's what they would do with it. We'll get back into this and your phone, 615-737-1025. Chad Withrow, Outkick 360. You'll join us next. SEC Media Days in the books. And Tennessee has been smacked with 18 Level 1 violations, and yet I think they'll get off scot-free. Does Chad believe that? That's next. Stillman and Company right here on 1025 The Game.
Your speaker at home is so smart that even Alexa knows where to find Nashville's best sports talk.
102.5 The Game is Nashville's best sports talk.
Ask Alexa to enable 102.5 The Game. Once enabled, ask Alexa to play 102.5 The Game.
Welcome to 102.5 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Coheed and Cambria. A Window of the Waking Mind tour with special guests Alkaline Trio and Mothica. Coheed and Cambria live in concert this Saturday at Nashville Municipal Auditorium. Get tickets now at livenation.com. For more, visit coheedandcambria.com.
Hello, Nashville. Looking to save money on your wireless bill? You can when you choose Consumer Cellular. Sign up today and you'll get the exact same coverage as the leading carriers for half the cost. This gives you direct access to the widest, most established cellular networks available. Consumer Cellular offers flexible monthly plans with no contract and simple, affordable service that's perfect for your lifestyle and budget. Featuring a wide variety of top-of-the-line phones from Samsung, Motorola, and Apple, you'll find a phone that's perfect for you. Everything is backed by a 100% risk-free guarantee, plus 100% U.S.-based award-winning customer support. Switch your talk, text, and data plan before July 31st and get $100 on every new line of service. Right-size your plan and downsize your bill with Consumer Cellular. Visit consumercellular.com/Nashville100 and enter code Nashville100 to start saving today.
Hey, Willie Donick here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month, and inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it that you can access with Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto specializes in zero-cost cash-out home refis. You can get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. Pay off those 23% rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut $800 or more from their monthly budget. If your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto now and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. Do it now. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Jump into the thrill at Bally's Evansville Casino with 24-hour gaming excitement, 3 dining options, and 2 first-class hotels. Plan your casino getaway now at Bally'sEvansville.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Chase Elliott scores the win in the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury. He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live in the Hillside Medical Game Studios. It is Friday at 5 o'clock. Adam Vingan's in for Caroline today. And I got to say this. Chad Withrow joins us, as always, presented by Apple Collision Centers, online at applecollisioncenters.com. Chad, I can't remember the last time we talked on a Friday. Either I've been off or you've been off or whatever. When's the last time we talked?
It's been too long, Jared. I feel disconnected from you. I have not gone this many Fridays in a long time. I feel like without talking to you. I know you were out maybe 2 weeks ago. I feel like there was like a week you were off. Then you maybe had a Friday off, just one day of the week, and I was on. And now I was out this week, but I'm hopping on here with you right now. So it's been too long. Let's just put it that way.
I'll put it to you like this. I was off all week until today. I like these one-day work weeks. I will start with this, though, which is the NCAA fired off the notice of allegations to Tennessee for the Jeremy Pruitt years. I am convinced, even with 18 level 1 violations, I am convinced that Tennessee will get off without any real punishment. Now, scholarship reductions, recruiting visits, that'll probably be part of it. But as far as real punishment, I think Tennessee will get off completely free. I don't think there will be any bowl bans or anything of the like. Do you think that's what's going to happen? What do you see in store for the Volunteers with the news today about the 18 level 1 violations?
It was great news for Tennessee today. I mean, it's embarrassing just how, it's not even the violation. $60,000 is nothing in the world of college sports with Jeremy Pruitt. It's how dumb Jeremy Pruitt is in all of this. That his wife is making rental payments, down payments on a place for a recruit's parent. Just all that stuff is so stupid. So it's embarrassing for the university with the 18 level 1 violations. But, I mean, both sides, Jared, are going out of their way to praise the other. The NCAA in the notice of allegation saying Tennessee has set the standard moving forward for how you handle allegations quickly and how you investigate yourself and how things are done. Danny White, in his statement, clearly is saying we're not going to challenge this at all. I think Tennessee and the NCAA both know that it's going to be very minimal punishment at all for Tennessee moving forward. This also comes at a time where the NCAA is working on some new rules that will make it virtually impossible to punish future student athletes in the university. It's all going to be about the coach and those who had the wrongdoing with the NCAA. So, look, I think Jeremy Pruitt got fired for cause, did not get his buyout. I don't know that he's going to get his buyout. Tennessee completely wiped out the staff. They played a season last year with 69 scholarship players instead of 85. They punished themselves with 2 weekends where they couldn't host recruits to start last year. So they started some of the punishment then. The NCAA is going to come back with something. I think it's going to be very minor. So, look, the bullet point takeaway for me in all of this is that it's good news for Tennessee that it was not lack of institutional control, and instead they went with failure to monitor with Jeremy Pruitt and his staff. So all in all, I think this is a good day where Tennessee now can move forward a bit, where they've kind of been in neutral with everything, waiting on this day to come.
Chad Withrow's with us, Outkick 360, presented by Apple Collision Centers, online at applecollisioncenters.com. Chad, I did not go to SEC Media Days this week. Caroline did a fantastic job. Tons of great coverage. I don't mean this for SEC Media Days, though it's the one that I would pay the most attention to. I'm over all media days, and I think the fans are too. I don't know if it's because the times we live in right now, the players and coaches don't ever say anything interesting, or if it's because, the leagues have changed how the media days work, where it's now just content for their TV network. But I don't care about the Missouri coach. I don't care about the Arkansas team. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about South Carolina. And I just feel like none of these guys say anything anymore. And all the things that everybody wants to ask about are things that are beyond the coach's control, NIL and conference realignment. I mean, Nick Saban has absolutely nothing to do with either of those, especially conference realignment. I just found there to be no use in anything that came out of any of these media days, whether it was Mike Gundy making a crack at Texas and Oklahoma, whether it was Jim Phillips saying that the ACC is in a great spot. I just think it's all bull crap. I don't know. I'm over it. What is your reaction to media days this year and how, honestly, uninteresting I find them?
Yeah, I think that as a whole they're pretty uninteresting. I think the value in media days is, and we had a couple of representatives for our show. None of us went to media days, but a couple of reps from Outkick went there and kind of did a good job of feeding some interviews back to Outkick 360. And we had a writer there, and Trey Wallace and Glenn Gilbo from the site. So here's what I think about it, Jared. I think it's sort of a roll call moment for writers. So if you are a writer anywhere in the Southeast, you better be at SEC Media Days, because everyone is seeing if you're legitimate or not on whether or not you're at SEC Media Days. Right or wrong, I think that's what happens at an event like that, even though I could sit at home and watch media days and read a transcript and write stories based on what they're saying in that big writer room that all the writers go to and congregate in. It's not that difficult to get information on what's happening if you do that. The second part of what you're talking about is the television networks and control. And this is what's not interesting about SEC Media Days to me. It's all about control, and the only thing that's interesting right now is the uncontrollable.
Mm-hmm.
And the uncontrollable is NIL, is to an extent conference realignment, certainly out of the control of SEC coaches of this thing. Greg Sankey could have some things to say if he wasn't so guarded, but it's not in Greg Sankey's interest to air any business of the SEC, any real business out at SEC Media Days. So, again, I'm kind of with you in that I didn't find a lot of it that interesting because they're asking about NIL, they're asking about conference expansion, and while these coaches and players might have an opinion on it, they have no say over it. And then you have the networks in complete control of where the coaches go. So this has become an event that is run by ESPN. Mm-hmm. ESPN is telling every school, hey, only go on these stations that are ESPN affiliated, only go on SEC Network, only do this. And when I started going to SEC Media Days in 2005, I think it was my first one, 2004 was my first SEC Media Days. I mean, every coach did every station that was there. You were going to get every single head coach, regardless of affiliation, because they all went down in that lobby of the Hoover, whatever it is, Winfrey Hotel, and they went to every radio station. Those days are long gone. For that reason, it's just not as interesting.
I mean, I remember when I was in Louisville, and Louisville entered the ACC, and we went to ACC kickoff, and we got every coach and every good player except for Jameis Winston. Jameis did not do interviews for obvious reasons, but we got everything else. Now it's just like getting this writer or TV person or ESPN person. Like, no. Like, and again, I thought Caroline did a fantastic job. I am not knocking her coverage or anything else. I just think Media Days suck now. And on top of it, yesterday, Chad, I was watching ACC Media Days. They had the commissioner on, and so it's like a five-person panel, and the commissioner, and it ends with the host saying, well, Commissioner, with you running the show, we have all the confidence in the future of the ACC. And I almost vomited when I heard that.
Oh, my gosh. Mean,
what happened to the old days of, is Philip Fulmer going to get served with a subpoena if he shows up to SEC Media Days? What happened to those days? Now it's all, let's see who has the best shoes on SEC Network, and literally bored me to tears. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely homogenized compared to what it once was. And you had the crazier characters in Hoover that kind of hung out in the lobby also, and, local TV stations would be talking to them, and they'd be saying crazy things, and, wearing crazy things and all that, and the coaches were way more accessible. And here's the other thing, too, and I'm not trying to be a snob on this, but I have no interest in talking to, a defensive back at Mississippi State.
Yes.
I just find that completely not interesting. I don't think audiences really care. I think when it comes to, one of our producers sent us a list of everyone that was going to be there and asked our opinion on who we wanted. And my response was, any coach, any quarterback. That's about it in terms of the traveling party. Any quarterback, any school that sends their quarterback, I'm interested in talking to the quarterback. Outside of that, I'm trying to think of the list that I would be remotely interested in. Cedric Tillman as a receiver, Tank Bigsby at Auburn was one. But, I mean, there's just not a huge list of players in college that's worth the time to interview. And I think most shows are better off just talking about what's happening at Media Days instead of interviewing a player. And that's just the God's honest truth. If you can get any coach in the SEC, you put that coach on. No doubt about it. I don't care where they're coaching. It is worth your time to interview an SEC head coach. But when it comes to players, I really only kind of want to talk to the quarterbacks and the stars, and that's about it.
I mean, plus the players don't say anything. It's all it's like, what's the big moment? I mean, like, we had fun with it when Floyd was around, and, like DJ Chark once asked Floyd about, advice for how to make it into the NFL. But even then, I'm not sure people cared about it that much. And so, to me, I think that Media Days were a big deal. I remember 10 years ago when Johnny Manziel got kicked out of the Manning Passing Academy and was going to be at SEC Media Days, and that was a humongous national story. Now, I think if you're a radio station in a small southern town, I think you should go to SEC Media Days because you're probably not going to get David Pollack on your station ever. during the course of a season or any time other than that. But I'm not interested. I'm not interested in spending 4 days somewhere to get David Pollock on the air. And I think that, media days is kind of fallen out of favor. Chad Withrow with us, as always, presented by Apple Collision Centers, online at applecollisioncenters.com. Chad, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Always fun talking ball with you, Jared. Thank you so much. And hey, let's not let a month pass before we talk to each other on a Friday again. How about that?
Training camp opens for the Titans tomorrow, so I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So
yeah, there's no vacation for me again until next summer or maybe around Christmas. So I'm with you from here on out.
There you go. Chad Withrow, Outkick 360, as always, joining us on the program. Okay, let's reset the Matthew Kachuk stuff with the Predators. Adam Vingan's here. And the one thing that I'm just going to tell the Predators this. I'm just going to say it once. When it comes to Kachuk, when it comes to the team, when it comes to what they've been promising the fans, we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here. Fireball Hot Take Friday on 102.5 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Chevrolet Buick GMC. When this hot summer weather comes, I'm reminded of what my grandmother used to say. It's so hot outside, the hens are using pot holders to pick up the worms. I was never really sure what that meant, but when she said it, I knew it was hot. I mean, if things are hot, that tells you something, and it's not always good. Take your car, for example. If it's running hot, something's wrong. If your air conditioner, like so many people, is blowing hot these days, something's wrong. When your tires get hot, they wear out faster, which means something's wrong. But here at Newton, we want to help right those wrongs. We have an amazing service department that'll keep your car running its best through all this heat. We have amazing technicians ready to diagnose and repair your car no matter what the problem is. We want to keep your car running smoothly in the easiest way possible. So let us help. Schedule your service online today at NewtonChevroletBuickGMC.com.
It's Black Friday in July at Electronic Express. This week, get an LG 70-inch 4K TV for $599 or a Whirlpool 4-piece kitchen package for $27.99. Save up to 50% in every department at Electronic Express. Computers, appliances, 4K TVs, housewares, furniture, mattresses, and more. Don't miss out on an HP laptop for just $349 or a Samsung washer and dryer for $549 each. Shop in-store or online with free financing. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
For the first time, saddle up in Smashville. 6:30 next Saturday at Nissan Stadium for WWE SummerSlam. See undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns face Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match. Liv Morgan defends the SmackDown Women's Championship against Rowdy Ronda Rousey. Pat McAfee vows to shut down Happy Corbin and more. 3 seats are still available and tickets start at $25 at Ticketmaster.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Do you think that those core players are good enough in order to compete, to bridge the gap with Colorado or other teams in the Western Conference?
I think they are, Jared, in the sense that, you have to – basically what happens is I think when you look at the level that they played this year, like there was a transition, I think, when you look at – I think they've shown they have a lot of game left in the sense that, I think that they're all in great shape. I think that they're playing the game and driving at a high level. I felt like what can help – how can you support them? If you really look at the team this year, whether you put Johansson or Granlund with Duchesne and Forsberg, like that was a top line all year long. The issue was if whichever one of those two centers wasn't with those two wingers, we didn't have enough punch in that quote-unquote second line spot. So let's say Phil's back and you had Granlund, Forsberg, and Duchesne. How can we support? Can we do that internally, or do we have to do it externally to help a guy like Johansson or Granlund in that second line center spot that gives us more punch, but also brings some skill sets that helps those guys?
There you go. That was John Hines, and I asked the question, is your core good enough to bridge the gap with Colorado with a couple of guys? And he said, yes, right there in that clip. And they've added a couple of guys, Nino Niederreiter and Ryan McDonough. But the guy to add, Matthew Kachuk, is out there. He wants a trade out of Calgary, and the Predators are on the list for whatever you make of that. Adam Vingan is here. In fact, I remember you put out a story, 2 or 3 months ago, and in it listed, potential free agents the Predators could go get, and Nino Niederreiter was on the list. And I remember reading that and thinking that this team was not a Nino Niederreiter away from being able to compete. That this team needed like a legit guy in there, and I didn't see any path to getting one at that time, as did most people not seeing that path come about. So I brought this clip up about 500 times, and it's Eric Dickerson on Radio Row at the Super Bowl talking about when the Rams moved from from St. Louis to Los Angeles, and that he told Jeff Fisher that almost winning was not good enough. And it makes me think of the Predators right now. You tell me if I'm wrong on this. I think the Predators with Niederreiter and Ryan McDonough is a team that can almost win, but they can't win. And here in Nashville, just like this Eric Dickerson clip, we want to win. Here's what Eric Dickerson said.
In LA, we want to win. We don't want to almost win. And they say, oh man, if we'd have had another quarter, if this wouldn't happen, I say that's what losers say. And so I said we need to win. I'm saying, and 8-8 and 7-9 is just not gonna cut it. I said, this is LA, this is not St. Louis.
Okay, let's think about the Predators. You know as well as I do, the fans are tired of the mediocrity. They are tired of, we made the playoffs. They're tired of that.
Yes.
We'd all agree.
Yes.
So they're tired of that, and this team has gotten some better players, but they still aren't, in my opinion, good enough to win. So if you don't go after Matthew Kachuk, what are you trying to do? And the only answer I can come up with if they don't go after Matthew Kachuk is they're trying to almost win. And what's the point of almost winning when you're a 72-year-old general manager or you own the team and in 3 years you're not going to own the team? I don't see the point in almost winning. Is anything that I said out of line when it comes to the Predators and Kachuk?
No, I don't think so. And, if we're looking at the team right now, and I think we would both agree that they are marginally better, slightly better. They are better today than they were at the end of last season. They have a legitimate top 6 forward in Nino Niederreiter. That will help. Their defense is improved with Ryan McDonough. But, you also are hoping that what Matt Duchesne and Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi and Tanner Jeannot is it sustainable? Can they come? Look, I don't think none of us, and I'm sure many of the listeners will all agree that Roman Josi's probably not going to have another 96-point season. He did something that only a handful of defensemen have done in NHL history.
The last guy that does it has a statue.
Right. It had been 30 years since a defenseman had scored as many points as Roman Josi. But, he's probably still going to have a really good season. But what are the chances that they're going to have another pair of 40-goal scorers again, or that Tanner Jeannot is going to have a shooting percentage of 20% or whatever it was and score 24 goals? There's a lot of, if-then happening with this current Predators roster, and that's a dangerous place to live because if those things don't happen, this team's fortunes might decline.
Here's my question for David, though. Why not?
I can't think of very many reasons.
I mean, again, your trade package, I would literally run to the phone with if that was what Calgary was looking for in exchange for Kachuk. And you said it was a first-round pick, one of the top prospects, Sissons, Fabro, and Tomasino.
Yes.
I would run to the phone. Like, if you're David, what do you not get out of that? Like, you get Matthew Kachuk. It's not your money. Like, it's not David's money. David, to sit there and give Matthew Kachuk $9.5 million, like, so? Now, I know the Predators have this weird thing about nobody can make more than Yossi, but I'm sorry, get over it. Like, you give Kachuk the money, and you have a legitimate, I am convinced that a team in which the core of the team is Johansson, Forsberg, Duchesne, Kachuk, Nino Niederreiter. We'll leave, Granlund out of this for a second. Ekholm, Yossi, Ryan McDonough, and Saros. That is good enough to compete with anybody else's top 8 or top 7 in goalie.
Yeah.
That team can't compete. That team can't compete with Tampa. That team can't compete with Toronto. That team can't compete with anybody in the Western Conference, including Colorado. Like, so why not? And not only that, not that I dug too deep into this, I don't think it's an accident that the guy who covers the Blues is the one who reported the story that Kachuk wants out and had the list of teams that he wanted to go to, which makes me think that Kachuk probably wants to go to St. Louis, where he's from. Not somebody who can argue about working a job in their hometown. It definitely has its perks.
Yes.
So if you're looking at it, if you're the Predators, and not only are you trying to get this guy to be able to beat St. Louis and beat Colorado, but there has to be a fear that if you don't get him, St. Louis will. So I asked David this question. Why not? And yet I feel like you and I both think in our heart of hearts, David has probably mentally shut the door to the idea of going after Matthew Kachuk for one reason or another, whatever that reason may be.
I mean, what would be interesting if they had Kachuk, and I sent you this list the other day, because I was curious of the breakdown of teams in the NHL in terms of how many forwards they have on their team with cap hits of at least $8 million.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 teams in the NHL next season that will have 3 forwards with at least $8 million cap hits. And one of these things is not like the other. The Toronto Maple Leafs with Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and Mitch Marner. The Tampa Bay Lightning with Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, and Steven Stamkos. And the Nashville Predators with Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchesne, and Ryan Johansson.
And see, that's the problem, is that David overvalues his own players. That's the biggest problem with the Predators. That if you don't make this trade, if you don't make the Adam trade, Sissons, Fabro, Tomasino, pick, and prospect, it's because you love your own players too much. And there's this sense with right now, if you were to go full-on Oliver and stand outside with Ryan Johansson and ring the bell, and Oliver, and you were willing to give away Johansson's $8 million contract, nobody in the league would take it. I asked you at the start of the offseason, if the Predators were to put Matt Duchesne out on the block, would they get a first-round pick in return? And you said nobody in the league would give a first-round pick and take on the $8 million cap hit from Duchesne. I mean, Granlund's making $5 million. Nobody else in the league would pay Granlund $5 million. Nobody in their right mind would have given Jeremy Lozon a 4-year contract, and yet they did it. The Predators fall in love with their own players, just like they're falling in love with Carrier now, and he's not that good. And your own players, that group, they're not good enough. That group that's my point. That's the difference between almost winning and winning, is that the group of players that they love, oh, God, we can't trade Jeannot. Oh, God, we have to bring back Trennan. That group is good enough to almost win. But it's not good enough to win. And we want to win. We don't want to almost win. Nashville, I don't think demands that you win like, say, Los Angeles does. I do feel like in Nashville, though, we want to feel like the team can win. That's all we have.
Does Los Angeles really demand winners, like, I guess with some teams, right, like the Lakers? But if the Rams were...
Well, they won't pay attention.
Yeah, okay, I guess that's what you're saying.
Right.
Either win or we don't care.
It's very different because New York, for instance, demands that you win. And, I mean, they'll barbecue you if you do not win in New York. or Boston or Philly or something like that. In these other places where it's nice outside, the fans don't go bananas and haywire, but they just don't show up. They just don't pay attention. I mean, you've covered games in L.A.
Yes.
I mean, you've covered the Anaheim Ducks.
Yes.
Nobody cares. And so you have to win in Los Angeles in order to get people to care. But the Chargers have an unbelievable quarterback, a really solid team, and nobody cares about the Chargers because they don't win.
Right, yeah, like the Clippers have had their moments, right, when they've had a lot of fans in the stands, but then, yeah, kind of.
But if you don't win, and they don't in Los Angeles, they don't care about getting to the first round of the playoffs.
No.
And they don't care about getting to the first round of the playoffs here. The fans here do not care about the first round anymore. I want everybody over there to understand something. I'm trying to help you.
Help me help you.
I'm trying to help. You need to go get Matthew Kachuk because you all stink at drafting forwards. You stink at developing forwards. You stink at getting forwards that you pay good money to play to the best of their ability. And this guy is a baddie. He's a bad boy.
Is this your Mike and the Mad Dog Mike Piazza moment? Where they basically get Mike Piazza traded to the Mets?
They claim they got Piazza.
They claim. Well, you could claim that you got Matthew Kachuk to the Predators if it happens. But
well,
wasn't that?
I'm not going to claim that unless I actually do something more so that's involved in the process. But I will say this. I believe that you as fans, I mean, I can put pressure on them all I want. Training camp starts tomorrow. The rookies are reporting for the Titans. I'll be at practice, next week. And when I go to Titans practice, the number one topic around here is going to be about the Titans because it's football season. And so, the Predators may get off on the fact that it's not going to be an everyday bang it into the ground kind of discussion when it comes to Kachuk, as it should be. But I do believe that as the fans, this would be a move that if I was not I do not believe. Like, if I was a fan, if my team did go after Matthew Kachuk, I would be so incredibly disappointed with my team that is telling me, no, we understand your frustration of losing in the first round. We promise we'll do better. And then you don't go after Matthew Kachuk. I would find that to be very disheartening. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. Who is Eric Francis?
Eric Francis covers the Flames for Sportsnet.
Okay. We know what the asking price is essentially now for Matthew Kachuk. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, Adams in. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. I love the FanDuel Sportsbook. And start the second half of the baseball season off right and turn Ks into cash and big hits into big wins with FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just sign up using the promo code JGM, place your first bet, and FanDuel will give you up to $1,000 back in bets if you don't win. The Astros in the second half are going to be playing a lot of bad American League West teams. They'll watch out for Seattle, but I'd be betting the Astros heavily down the stretch here in the second half. FanDuel's got great promotions every day. It's a safe and secure app, and you get paid fast. There's no better place to bet America's pastime than on America's #1 sportsbook. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up using the promo code JGM to get started with your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. 21 and over in present Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days and restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
and I-840,
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
there's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams. This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
This is Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers. We understand that no one likes to deal with auto body repair and the inconvenience it becomes in your day-to-day life. I want to personally invite you to stop by and let our experienced staff see how we can help you make your vehicle look good as new. Apple Collision Center has 3 convenient locations, Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin, ready to serve you. Come by and see us or visit us online at applecollisioncenters.com.
Jason Bottom's Led Zeppelin Evening. Live. an unforgettable evening of Led Zeppelin's greatest hits and deepest cuts. November 30th at Ryman Auditorium. Tickets on sale Friday, 10 a.m. at Ryman.com. Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Evening, sponsored by PNC Bank and Access, proud partners of Ryman Auditorium.
For the first time in history, the FedEx St. Jude Championship will kick off the FedEx Cup playoffs this August. Bring the whole family out to TPC Southwind, August 10th through 14th. To watch the PGA Tour's best, try to make it through Memphis. Enjoy a variety of family-friendly activities throughout the course, food from local restaurant favorites, and more. Daily grounds and upgraded tickets are available now at FedExChampionship.com.
Summer heat is here. How is your air conditioner holding up? Costs are rising everywhere. Grocery bills, gas bills, utility bills, you name it, up, up, up. Is your AC old, inefficient, costing more than it should? Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Qualified buyers have up to 72 months. No interest for a new York air conditioner and 6 months no interest for repairs. That's at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. All new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. That's at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. A York certified comfort expert company. Schedule now at springhillac.com.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming. Get the extra point, no problem. And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey Nashville, this is Mookie Betts. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You know, the last couple of years you've been on a team that has been competing for a cup. How close is this team with your addition to compete at that level?
I think very close. I mean, when we played against Nashville 2 years ago, and we had a really hard time beating them. I mean, they're such a competitive team. They skate really hard. They're very physical and hard to compete. And I think we had a really tough time. And I think this team is not very far from having such a great run.
And to that point, there were rumors yesterday that Matthew Kachuk is looking to move and that the Predators would be on his list. What do you think adding that caliber of player could do for this roster right now?
I mean, definitely a lot. I mean, he's a terrific player. I mean, he had a lot of points last year. And, I mean, obviously players like that don't come around very often. And he would be definitely a great addition. But at the end of the day, it's not in my power to say that he would be great.
There you go, Nino Niederreiter. He'd be down for Matthew Kachuk, as would everybody else. Eric Francis covers the Calgary Flames for Sportsnet. Adam, yes. How much do we trust Eric Francis?
He has been in the market for a long time. I would say that he's plugged in.
Okay, so the guy who covers the Flames now has the asking price at Sportsnet, has the asking price for Matthew Kachuk. A source close to the situation, Francis writes, said the Flames are looking for 3 or 4 players in return for the 104-point unicorn. While discussions with every team are different based on their personnel, the main goal is to land a top 6 forward, a top prospect, and a first-round pick. I got him! I got him! Granlund, sorry. Zachary LaRue, sorry. First-round pick, and I'll throw in Fabro while I'm at it because I can't stand to watch him trail a play, fall down, and give up a goal again in my life. Sold. Done. Deal. Here you go. Take Sissons if you want him to. I mean, I don't just there. Granlund. You want a top 6 forward? Mikhail Granlund is a legitimate top 6 forward in the NHL, right?
Yes.
I mean, most teams would not value him at $5 million like the Predators do, but he is a legitimate top 6 forward. Young player, top prospect. Zachary LaRue. Does he count?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of their top 2 or 3 prospects.
Okay. You go. First round pick. Problem with that?
Not if you plan on being good next year, because the pick will be later in the round.
Good. Right? Gone. See ya. He continues to write. Now, this is an important one at Sportsnet that said, talking about Kachuk, that a source close to Kachuk denied the accuracy of an alleged trade list being reported that includes St. Louis, Vegas, Florida, Nashville, and Dallas. He continues, not all the teams on Kachuk's actual wish list are interested or capable of parting with significant assets to make such a swap, while also committing to pay the rugged winger upwards of $10 million U.S. on a year on a long-term deal. That should not be the Predators. Like, the Predators should be interested. The Predators should have the assets, and the Predators should have the money.
But not pay him $10 million? Wait, what are you saying?
No, like the Predators should be the Predators should be willing to pay him $10 million.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying I thought you stopped at the $10 million.
So, I mean, if Calgary is telling you right now that they want those things, and I think if he's reporting this, it's coming from Calgary, that if they want a top 6 player, a top prospect, and a top pick, that they'll actually be willing to take a little bit less than that. Probably not much less, but they'll be willing to take less. That's them setting the expectation. I think the Predators should not bat an eyelash at that. I think when it comes to the idea of paying Kachuk $10 million a year, $9.5 million a year, whatever it is, do it. That is what going for it is. Going for it is putting all your chips in the middle and knowing that 4 years down the road, you're going to have Forsberg in his 30s and Yossi in his mid to late 30s, and Kachuk is going to be on this deal, and you're probably at the end of paying Duchesne, and you're probably going to suck. That is what going all in is, right?
Yes.
Do it. I don't get it. If you're going to tell me we're not going to blow the team up, we're not going to take steps back, we're going to try to compete with Colorado today, do it. Now, the other nugget that I thought was interesting was essentially refuting the Jeremy Rutherford report that was the list that Kachuk wanted to come here. That makes me nervous that Matthew Kachuk might not want to come here. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's always interesting when different reporters are almost playing a game of chicken, I guess you could say, because Jeremy and Eric are reputable reporters, and their sources are probably different, and they're probably reliable, but they must be hearing different information. So I know Jeremy a lot better than I know Eric, and I've always trusted Jeremy's reporting. He's incredibly plugged in St. Louis, and of course, I'm sure he covered Keith Kachuk when he was there. I think he's been covering the team for that long, and he probably has a relationship with the Kachuk family. So I wouldn't doubt Jeremy's reporting. What's interesting is oftentimes when these things happen, when you hear about a player, a disgruntled player, or a free agent player, I mean, with the obvious exception of Matt Duchesne, who clearly wanted to be here, you very rarely hear Nashville's name on this. Mm-hmm. Like when Artemi Panarin was going to free agency, you knew he wanted to go to New York. Like it was going to happen, and it did. But and you knew that Matt Duchesne wanted to eventually show up in Nashville, and he did. But very rarely do you hear Nashville as a destination for a top player who wants out of his current situation or is a free agent.
Although Ryan McDonough did call the Predators.
I guess that is true.
Now, there were extenuating circumstances that probably led to Ryan McDonough calling the Predators.
Right. The Lightning had to get rid of him.
And they shipped him off as far as they could see because they'll never see the Predators until the Cup final. And the Predators had the cap space. And so it worked. And McDonough, they could convince him to come here.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think Kachuk would turn down the opportunity to at least be wooed by Nashville.
Right, and remember the whole close-to-home thing for Johnny Gaudreau. He signs with Columbus, and everyone's like, well, it's not Philadelphia. I don't mind Columbus.
Columbus sucks.
It's a good college town.
Sucks.
Anyway, but they didn't mind, he wasn't New Jersey, it wasn't Philadelphia. Well, it's a lot easier to fly from Columbus to southern Jersey, where his family lives, than from Calgary to New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So what's a flight from St. Louis to Nashville? An hour? Not even?
Yes.
So he's still close to home. So if St. Louis, if he wants to be closer to home, Johnny Gaudreau proved that you don't have to actually sign in your hometown to be close to home.
If that's what they're looking for, again, if the ask is a top 6 winger, I will give you Granlund. If the ask is a top prospect, I will give you LaRue. I will give you Evangelista. I will give you any one of these freaking guys who they'll have somebody on the games at the Jumbotron tell me about Milwaukee, and they'll be talking about these guys, and then they'll come up and stink like Cody Glass does. Fine. I don't care about that. Enough with the Preds prospects. You do those on your own time. Guys told me Tolvanen, and I'm talking about David, Tolvanen and Fabro were going to be the truth. Yeah, do the Preds prospects on your own time. Take them. Take Evangelista, take LaRue, whichever one you want, and a first-round pick. Take it. And I think any sensible person would have to say that, right? Like, if that's the ask, Granlund, a prospect, a first-round pick, you have to make this trade if you're the Predators. Or at least try to make the trade.
Right. Like I was saying earlier, I think the one thing that might work to the Predators' disadvantage is the Flames, I would have to imagine, would prefer a top 6 player who's young and under team control.
Right. They'd like good players.
Right.
Unlike the Predators.
But if it's Granlund, who's in his 30s and signed for 3 more years at $5 million, or Jordan Kyrou, who's 24, had 75 points last season, has 1 more year, I think 1 or 2 more years on his current deal, and then is an RFA, that sounds a whole lot better to me.
I know. Hopefully they're not offering him, because if they do offer Kyrou, sounds like the Predators are out. Let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Lance has been waiting patiently. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Lance.
Hey, man. I want to talk about what it would take to get Kachuk. First of all, I don't think we want Carrier and Fabro both. Carrier would be the cheaper option, and I'm done with Tolvanen. I know y'all just gave out that little list that reporter gave.
Sure.
I would try to unload Fabro, Tolvanen, and maybe Granlund. And if I had to throw in a pick or something like that, I would, because you know how our luck is with drafting. We are terrible.
Yeah, I don't think you can normally go that route, but maybe in this case you can. Thank you for your call, Lance. I mean, the Predators are absolutely going to make the playoffs with the team that they have right now. If they don't make the playoffs with this team, everybody should be fired, including the coach. And I think the coach, regardless of if they make a trade for Kachuk, I think he's on the hot seat the day the season starts. Because if they don't play well to begin the year, if they have the start of the season that they had 2 years ago, now they'll have a better team than they had 2 years ago. But if they start the season in a fire the coach sport, I think they will fire that coach. And I think they should fire the coach if that's what happens. But especially if you add Matthew Kachuk and you're not winning to start the season, then you will definitely fire the coach. But as far as, like, I think the pick won't be a great first-round pick because the Predators will make the playoffs, so who cares? Trade it. Trade it. And this time you're trading it, and you're not trading for Ryan Hartman, or you're not trading for Cody Franson. Like, you're trading for a good player. 615-737-1025. We're back to your phones. We'll wrap it up. Adam's in today. Stillman and Company on 1025 The Game.
Join 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and Newton Motor Group this summer to help kids in Middle Tennessee. We're teaming up with Souls for Souls to provide shoes to children experiencing homelessness in Nashville and the surrounding area for back to school. Our goal is to raise $20,000, which will provide 1,000 pairs of shoes for kids. To help, go to thegamenashville.com/shoes. Let's do some good this summer. Newton Motor Group is a proud sponsor of Souls for Music City. Newton Motor Group, the best car deals in Nashville. Start at Newton. Visit thegamenashville.com/shoes.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
The extreme heat continues as we head into the weekend. We'll look for highs near 100, heat index values as high as 108. Mainly sunny skies both Saturday and Sunday. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Family Leisure is having a come out and play sale.
That's right. Family Leisure is inviting you to come out and play with the new swimming pool, spa, or patio furniture set.
Hundreds of pools in stock and on sale. DIY pools start at only $16.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99 installed.
Installation in less than 10 days on average.
More than 100 spas in stock and incoming. Artesian, Strong, and LPI spas starting at only $29.99.
What about the patio furniture?
Family Leisure has hundreds of sets in stock and on sale. Hanneman, Woodard, Tropitone, and Loft, all ready for immediate delivery.
Family Leisure also has the Sabre infrared grill in stock and on sale at only $11.99, and the Bull Grill Islands at only $39.99.
And Family Leisure has the Diamond Point Play Gym at only $25.99 installed and ready for immediate delivery.
Pool tables, massage chairs, and theater seating all on sale and ready for immediate delivery.
Come out and play at both huge locations, Franklin and Antioch.
Well, family and fun come together.
To know what makes Genesis Diamonds so special, you have to understand its origin. Back when owner Boaz Ramon used to sell diamonds only to jewelry stores.
I was selling to more than 700 jewelry stores. I didn't like what I saw.
What he saw in retail stores was grossly inflated prices, limited selection, pricing games, and a sales process that put the customer at a disadvantage. And it motivated this wholesaler to start his own retail revolution.
My passion was to build a place where the customer is going to be very informed. We're not going to hide any information from him. We're not going to have to get diamonds from other people. We're not going to mark up our prices to mark them down.
So Genesis was born. No middleman markups, no commission salespeople, industry-leading warranties, 30 times the selection, a no-holds-barred diamond education that empowers the customer, and a refreshing, relaxed, no-pressure atmosphere.
We created a place where the consumer is the king.
Come and get the royal treatment today. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
312 Pizza Company is Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria, and they're now hiring. Work for a family-owned business and be a part of their incredible team. 312 Pizza Company is hiring for all positions, including host, waitstaff, bartenders, cooks, and more. 312 Pizza Company offers health insurance and paid time off to full-time employees. Contact Kimberly at 615-730-7888 or email at contact@312pizzaco.com. 312 is an equal opportunity employer.
Robbie Stanley.
To avoid non-contact injuries and not repeat last year,
Joe Rexroad.
Just wait until next year's national TV schedule comes out.
Robbie and Rexroad. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
You know, what's it going to take? I do think it's going to take, a significant player. I'll just use the Blues, for example, like a Jordan Kyrou. I think it's going to take a prospect. But the biggest thing for any team interested in Matthew Kachuk, a lot of teams are up against the cap or close to it, and you're going to have to move $8 or $9 million to make it work. That's just how you have to do it. And you guys know this as well as anybody, how tough it is to move salary cap. I mean, you got so many different variables that players with no trade clauses, like Vladimir Tarasenko, does he want to go to Calgary? Probably not. And then you have a situation where, does a team like Calgary want a player that you're trying to get rid of? So there's so many difficulties, I think, in trying to move cap, and you don't have much time to do it before this arbitration.
There you go, Jeremy Rutherford, The Athletic on Matthew Kachuk. To your phones, Adam Vinkin, in phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Craig, you have to go for it. If you go all in and it doesn't work out, fine, but at least you didn't half-ass it and barely make the playoffs and then call the season a success because you exceeded preseason expectations.
Are you sure you didn't write that text message?
Freaking men. Here's my problem with going for it. First of all, I believe, let's use poker as an example. Because everybody uses the analogy all the time, push your chips, all in. If you go all in and you lose, what happens?
You lose everything.
Okay, so in sports, when you go all in and you take a big risk, and I hate to say it, but that is how this works. When you do this and you push all your chips in and you go all in and it doesn't work, you normally, in a normal organization where they fire coaches and general managers, you normally get fired for it. That's how it works. I'm okay with it, though. There's a time to go all in, and scared money doesn't make money. And I believe this is the time. David is not going to be the general manager of this team 5 years from now. Herb Fritsch is not going to own the team 5 years from now. This is when you go for it. And trading a bunch of assets for Kyle Turris is, to the texter's point, that's half-assing it. Well, we couldn't get Duchesne, so we traded a bunch of good assets in order to get this guy and gave him a huge contract. And he freaking stunk. No. First-round pick for Ryan Hartman. That's going for it. He stinks. No. This guy had 104 points last year. It's not that hard, right?
No, I mean, this is an actual going for it move. This is not one that you have to talk yourself into thinking it's a go for it move. Acquiring a player of this caliber at this age is, and look, if you re-sign Matthew Kachuk, He's a core player. He's a franchise player. The one thing that you and I agree on is that the one thing that's clearly missing from this team is a young player that when the 30-somethings move on, who is the new face of the Nashville Predators? They don't have that player right now. Matthew Kachuk would be that player.
Texter says, ownership wanted to keep the team in the playoffs to stay profitable and pump the team up for a sale. Now that Bill Haslam is on the hook, how much of the conversation do you believe he would be involved in on a trade? Because he'd have to be the one to pay the money. And is that why Nino Niederreiter was signed to a short-term deal?
Well, I mean, at this moment, right?
First of all, how diabolical would it be if they signed Kachuk and they essentially backloaded the deal, so in the third year he got a humongous balloon payment just to make Bill Haslam pay for it?
Well, that's why his current contract, the one that just expired, Kachuk, I think it was a 3-year, $21 million deal, and in the final year of the deal, his salary was $9 million because when it expired and he became an RFA and he received a qualifying offer, it's based off of the salary of the last season, which was $9 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it was structured that way. So yeah, that would be interesting if the a lot of times teams, like you look at like Forsberg's contract, a lot of the money is up front. I don't feel like a lot of the money is paid in the back half of the deal because you hope that the player is going to be good in the front half, so you give him the money then. But that would be diabolical. Yeah.
Texter says, I could see where the Predators may view the sheer number of things that you are suggesting to give Calgary as overpaying. This is what I would do if I was the Predators. I would trade Granlund, Sissons, Fabro, Tolvanen, LaRue, and a first-round pick in order to get Matthew Kachuk. I would be getting rid of $11.7 million in salary. I would then turn around and give Kachuk somewhere between $9.5 and $10 million on an 8-year deal. And I would not give him a full no move, but I'd give him pretty close to it. And with the additions of Niederreiter and Kachuk, the total for that group that I just traded, Granlund, Sissons, Fabro, Tolvanen, and LaRue, and a first-round pick. And I don't know about the first-round pick or LaRue because, they don't have NHL stats.
Right.
But I traded away 32 goals, 107 assists, and 139 points. By getting Kachuk, I already get 10 more goals than I am trading away. Between Kachuk and Niederreiter, I've added 34 goals to my roster. I'm losing 15 assists, which, Tommy Novak should be able to get you 15 assists, and I'm getting 9 more points. And that's something that bothers me when it comes to the Predators. I know we talk about it a lot, but it is the Predators have too many average players or bad players, or they're paying too much money for guys that people around the league would not pay that kind of money to. And that's got to stop. You got to get the guy that people around the league want, and he's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Predators roster, you clearly have to exclude Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg because they can't go anywhere. I mean, how many players on this team right now do you think other teams actually covet?
Okay, let me ask you. You just say yes or no.
Okay.
McDonough at 6'7",
Not at his age, no.
Ekholm at 6'2",
More than McDonough, but still iffy.
Johansson at 8,
No.
Duchesne at 8,
No.
Saros at 5,
Yes.
Granlund at 5.
No.
That's the point. Adam, great stuff. Both you and I do not think the Predators will do this, but God, I hope they do. Great stuff, Adam. Glad to have you here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
A great time was had by all. Stillman and Company. Titans camp opens for the rookies tomorrow. We'll be all over it next week. We'll be at camp. Training camp is here. Guys, the offseason is over. And the Predators may be in the mix for Matthew Kachuk. Stillman and Company, that's it. By the way, the Sounds are taking on the Louisville Bats right now on 94.9. We'll see you, Stillman and Company. See you Monday at 2.
Heads up. 106.3 FM is a new way to hear 102.5 The Game from downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and on I-24 to Murfreesboro.
Make sure you have that preset on your radio dial.
We're making it even easier to listen to Nashville